Donovan Brady back deep and punt is blocked. It's going to be blocked for a touchdown. Mikhail Kamara blocked it. And it's recovered in the end zone by Isaiah Jones. An Indiana touchdown. Mendoza's in the gun. The ball's on the 13-yard line. He's clapping as if they're going to snap it. They do snap it. He takes off running on a design quarterback draw. He has the first down. He spins into the end zone. What a play by Mendoza. And what a call. And the celebration begins. Curt Cignetti has led the Indiana Hoosiers to the national championship in one of the great coaching jobs of all time, in one of the great turnarounds in American sports history. The Indiana Hoosiers are football national champions.
Sean McDonough, the call last night as Indiana wins the national championship alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK. I think we had a pretty good read on that game. It was close. Indiana was pushed by Miami. Miami played a hell of a football game last night. That defensive line imposed its will. They made Fernando Mendoza very uncomfortable in the first half. The Indiana offense had a really hard time getting much of anything going offensively for about 40 minutes. And then ultimately they were able to find their game by the end of it. Fernando Mendoza has an unbelievable fourth quarter. Carson Beck throws the interception that we all knew was coming, Alex.
I said it. I hope you put it on that underdog play.
And we saw Indiana come out on top, in large part because of a blocked punt that they're able to recover in the end zone. A huge win for Indiana, a historic win for college football. The first team to win its first national championship in about 30 years in college football. It felt like a new era of college football last night as I watched Indiana. Looked this up earlier today. Indiana had 0 double-digit win seasons prior to Curt Cignetti. Now in back-to-back years, they've had double-digit win seasons, including this year. 16-0. Unbelievable. This new format was supposed to allow for stories like this. I didn't think it was going to be possible, though. Curt Cignetti, one of the greatest coaching jobs we've ever seen in sports. Alex, what was your biggest takeaway from Indiana's national title victory last night?
I mean, mine was Mendoza. T-Bone texted the group in the first half, and he's right. Like, Mendoza just did not look like a projected #1 overall pick. And I think that was credit to Miami's defense for how much they were pressuring him and how much they got him just kind of in his head, and they were making some weird decisions. But then that second half, and specifically that second-to-last drive that Indiana had where they scored, where going for it on 2 4th downs where Mendoza, what was like a 19-yard throw and caught his receiver falling backwards. And then when Mendoza, again on the 4th down play, T-Bone probably hated this going for it on 4th down twice.
It was too risky.
And they should have gone for it a third time. I was really surprised they didn't there at the end. I thought it might cost them.
Absolutely, but that run by Mendoza, man, that was why he won the Heisman, and it's why I'm curious to see what he looks like when he goes into the draft. I might be rooting for the Vegas Raiders if they draft him, because just watching him rebound from that first half where it looked like he was going to have a little C.J. Stroud game where it was like, man, what's going to happen? And then the fact that he just came out and just had that dog in him and ran through it on that play, it was impressive to me. So Mendoza, although that game was closer than I thought, Mendoza did what I expected him to do, and that was pull Indiana away.
Yeah, I was so scared in that final 2 minutes because I found myself rooting for Indiana last night just because, I mean, come on, what a great story it is to see them in the national championship.
You were rooting because you wanted to say Illinois got their butts kicked by the national champions.
Hey, I do get to say that I saw the national championship team in person.
That's pretty cool.
But like, when they had to burn those 2 timeouts, I mean, you mentioned the 4th down run. Cignetti takes those 2 timeouts. He goes for it, which was too rich for my blood. But I saw that and went, man, especially when he took the second time, I go, you have to go for it here, right? And it felt like the moment where if you don't get it, even if you did get it, I was worried that they were going to live to regret burning 2 timeouts there because it felt such critical. And the coaching by Cignetti all season long, like, you want to talk about big-time decision, taking the timeouts, going for it on 4th down, being gutsy like that. And then how about this? I think it was the play prior to the interception. Burns the timeout to talk with the defense. He can tell they're on their back heels. Nobody's talking about that timeout. but it's the smartest timeout he took probably of the game because he gets the defense to settle down, brings them over, says, guys, we're on the verge of winning a national championship. Rest the defense. They scheme up something. They end up with the interception, and they end up winning the national title. I mean, what a coaching job by Curt Cignetti, not just on the season, but in that game. It was masterclass by what he did.
It's what he's done all year.
Yeah.
And we said it looks very similar to the early Alabama years under Nick Saban. Just every decision seems to be the right one. He presses all of the right buttons. The one that I was a little bit questioning at home was that last field goal call. I thought maybe go for it in that spot because if you end up getting it, it was 4th and 4, Miami 17-yard line. It's a chip shot field goal. Their kicker is unbelievable and under 40 yards. And so you knew he was likely to make it, but you go up 27-21 if you make that field goal. That offense had been really good in these situations of 4th and 5 or shorter. Not only last night, but really all year long. And I trust Fernando Mendoza to make the right decision in those spots. So I thought maybe you go for it there. Part of this is if you kick the field goal, you are incentivizing Miami on their next drive to go for it all. They need to score a touchdown, and they're all out for a touchdown from the moment that they get the football. If you end up missing out on that 4th down, you're basically incentivizing Miami to settle for a field goal because they're only down by 3. So you give yourself multiple outs of the next drive getting a stop or also overtime still finding a way to beat Miami. So I thought go for it there because if you get it, you effectively end the game right then and there. But Cignetti did what he always does, which is end up. I thought the process may be a little wrong. The result was right, though. And every time this year, his results went in his favor.
Hey, man, he went for it on 2 4th downs. He was probably like, all right, this is enough. We got the job done.
I think if it was 4th and 2 or less, he probably goes for it. I think the fact that they only got a yard on the 3rd down play and it was 4th and 4, I think that's what scared him away from it because the reason that one I thought about going for, I think 4th and 4 is when I said, okay, probably have to settle for the field goal. But at that point, like you could tell the defense for Indiana was getting worn down. They had no pass rush at that time in the game either. So at that point, it did feel like, okay, we probably do need to go for this because I don't know that I trust the defense to get the stop when necessary.
I also wonder if Curt Cignetti could just kind of see the body language maybe of Miami and thinking it's like, look, we have one more push on Carson Beck. It's not like he's been amazing. He hasn't been what Mendoza's been this game.
Agreed.
All we need to do is get into his face for 4 more plays, and then this one's done. And they did. They got into his face. They forced him into a aggressive play, and Indiana was ready for it.
The only thing Miami really had going for it offensively last night was twofold. One, Mark Fletcher, who was awesome in that game on the ground once again. And 2, Malachi Toney. Get the ball in his hands in space and then allow him to go create. And because there was so little time left, it felt like both of those options were almost taken away from Miami. They needed more than just 4, 5, 6 yards at a time. They needed chunk plays down the field. So you were putting the ball back into Carson Beck's hands, and it's a bet against him. A bet that Carson Beck can't make these plays the way that your quarterback was able to last night. And somebody on the text line mentioned it. I think it's a really good point from the 314. What most impressed me is how few mistakes Indiana makes. They literally play smart, mistake-free football. Absolutely. And Fernando Mendoza is a big part of that. It's the running game. It's Fernando Mendoza. It's the specialty. It's everything. Everything is just well coached. And there's thought behind everything they do. Their coordinators on both sides of the ball had a fantastic night, not only yesterday, but all postseason long and really all year long. Just a really great coaching job from top to bottom, and you can see the leadership. They're grown-ass men on both sides of the football. The average age for the team was 24. That has part to do with this as well. Really impressive, all things considered. I do want to give a little love to Miami. They pushed Indiana a way that very few teams did this season, man.
And to think the committee had them out of the playoff until they were able to kind of put them head-to-head with Notre Dame.
Yeah, that team, when I watched them this year, I didn't think they had this in them. I really didn't. And for them to be able to get right to the doorstep of winning a national championship, despite earlier this season losing against Louisville, losing against SMU, and getting pushed by a couple other teams as well, pretty damn impressive postseason for Miami. And I think you saw the importance of having built through the trenches teams. Their offensive and defensive lines were what allowed them to get here, because they weren't excellent really in any other area, but their offensive and defensive line, Oh, baby. That Reuben Bain, that guy can play. He's going to be a stud in the NFL when he gets to the next level.
That pass rush of Miami was disgusting last night. And I think Indiana had a pretty good offensive line as well.
Yeah.
As we saw throughout the playoff. But, man, they had no answers for those guys coming off of the edge in that game. And you heard Cignetti say it in his postgame. Like, we couldn't protect the quarterback at all. And I think that's what really threw me off the scent in the first half on Mendoza. They had no answers because he had no time in the pocket. And then they were able to get him out a little bit more, and everything was able to open up a little bit. Yeah, that Miami team, I don't know how they lost twice in the ACC. It had to be Carson Beck's fault.
Well, that's the part for me. Yeah, that's the part for me. It's like, why were they almost left out of it? It's like, I don't know how you'd lose those games in the regular season.
I would see a couple of ACC games this year. Not a lot, let's be honest. You're not watching that conference. But when you would watch it, nobody's as physical as Miami. So they should have been able to just run through that conference, and yet they laid 2 freaking eggs because of their quarterback.
Beck threw 4 interceptions in the 24-21 loss against Louisville. So that was a pretty significant part of it. And then against SMU, he threw 2 interceptions.
And I think one of them was like at the goal line, if I remember correctly.
So how do they lose those games? The same way they lost this one. By Carson Beck making crippling mistakes when it mattered the most.
That's
Carson Beck is a fine quarterback for college. I think he's a backup quarterback in the NFL. There's nothing wrong with that. You can make a good career out of it.
I'd love to be a backup quarterback in the NFL.
Absolutely.
I don't know if you find quarterback at college. He got a big paycheck at Miami.
You saw what it can be last night when you have a number 1 overall selection going up against a guy that's probably a career backup in the NFL. Before we get out of here and talk a little bit about Major League Baseball, because the Dodgers are apparently about to do it again, where are you at on Fernando Mendoza? He's almost certainly going to be the number 1 overall pick in this year's NFL draft. He's very clearly the top quarterback that is available. Do you feel like he is a guy that can actually alter the fortunes of an NFL franchise?
I don't think so. I think you have to put a winning roster around him to get to the next level with Mendoza, but I think he's a quarterback, after we saw in those 2 fourth-down plays, he can make something out of nothing. And if I'm the Raiders, he's going to come in, makes me better than what I was last year without question, but it's not like the Raiders all of a sudden become, the Jacksonville Jaguars or something like that to where they're in the playoffs next year. I think it's going to be a little bit of a process to try and put some pieces around. He's got the arm and he's got the IQ on the field to make plays. So, yeah, I think so.
I think ideally you would not want him to be the number 1 quarterback coming out of the draft, but he's going to be. And I agree with Alex. I think his ceiling at best is like the 15th best quarterback in the NFL. And you can win with that. I think you hope that he can be like Jared Goff, essentially, where it is if we build the roster around him, as Alex said, we can end up being a team that can get to the playoffs, maybe make some noise, and maybe if everything works out, get to a Super Bowl. He's not going to be a guy that's like Josh Allen, Mahomes, Lamar, that uplift the franchise and are really the reason you're always going to have a floor of 10 wins.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think he can. I mean, this year, look at what we're watching right now. 2 of the teams in this year's championship weekend have Bo Nix and Sam Darnold as their starting quarterback. Can Fernando Mendoza be as good as those guys? Yeah, I think so. I think he can help your franchise the way that those 2 have. I think he's got some similarities to like a cross between Jared Goff and C.J. Stroud. I think he's got a really accurate arm. He's got good decision-making processes in place whenever he's not under pressure. But I think you even saw it last night. If he is under pressure, you could see some of this stuff where he's a little more erratic than what we saw from him most of the season this year at Indiana because of how great that offensive line was in front of him. So I think there will be some struggles in year 1. I think they'll be better with the Raiders than they were this year because, A, coaching is better, and B, I think he's just better than Geno Smith. I don't think he's going to completely change their fortunes, though. I think it could be kind of similar to what you saw with Tennessee this year, where you see the flashes from Cam Ward. But there's still not a very good team around him, and so you're going to need a little bit of time. I think he is kind of in that 10 to 15 range as a starting quarterback. But given this year's draft, that's enough to get you selected number 1 overall by the Raiders.
And I'll say this, he's got at least a good starting path with the roster if it is the Raiders, because you've got Bowers and you've got Ashton Genty. And, I mean, those are 2 weapons that you can work with, and then you've got to build out the offensive line, and you got to go find another receiver.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. This will not be the last time we talk about the college football playoff. We'll get into this more coming up in both the 12 and the 1 o'clock hours. If you guys want to get involved in the show, the places to do so are 314-399-9646. That is the Air Comfort Service text line. You can also check us out on YouTube, as always, at youtube.com/101ESPN In 15 minutes, we'll talk to our friend and the Blues insider for The Athletic, Jeremy Rutherford, joining us here on BK and Ferrario. But next, the Dodgers are really about to do this again, aren't they? We'll tell you what the latest is on them next here on 101 ESPN. You got to be kidding me with these Dodgers. They just can't help themselves. Our friend Katie Wu reporting earlier today over on The Athletic, the Dodgers continue to engage on Freddie Peralta.
Yeah, I would too. He obviously hasn't signed, and if I'm the Dodgers, hey man, want a 2-year deal?
Well, he is signed. He's
engaged on the trade. Oh, I thought he was a free agent.
No, he is a current member of the Milwaukee Brewers, making I think it's like $8 million this year
it's
in
a
arbitration.
steal for a guy with that arm.
Jeez.
Yeah, he's very good and he's very cheap, and the Brewers could probably get a haul for him via trade, considering what we've seen both in terms of controllable starting pitching, the market that exists out there for them this offseason, and also the prices that are being paid in free agency for starting pitchers as well. The Dodgers would like to continue supplementing their starting rotation because having 5 number 1 starters is just not enough for them. They would like to have even more because of some of the injuries that they saw a year ago. I get it, Alex. I don't blame the Dodgers for this. They're doing what is their right, which is continuing to supplement their roster with more top-end talent. I don't blame the Brewers for, and you know what, I kind of do.
I was gonna say, come on,
But in theory, the Dodgers do have exactly what the Brewers would want, which is controllable, young, talented starting pitching.
Yeah.
They've got a ton of those guys, and they don't need them in L.A. because they've got all these legit number 1 starters in L.A.
I was gonna say, how do you feel as a pitching prospect for the Dodgers when you see this report? I just want to go be in the big leagues, man.
Well, you're not getting to the big leagues with the Dodgers.
Yeah, so maybe you're like, cool, this is my path.
And if I could go to the Brewers, they obviously have some type of magic potion that makes guys that aren't great really good.
Gavin Stone,
Quinn
River
Priester.
Ryan. These guys are 27, 28 years old now. Like, they're not young pitchers anymore, but they can't break through with the freaking Dodgers because they have all of these other dudes that they've spent $100 million to put into the rotation, including Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Blake Snell, Tyler Glasnow, Shohei Ohtani, Roki Sasaki, Emmett Sheehan. All those guys currently members of the rotation.
Oh, no wonder why they need a 6th.
I'm not even upset about it anymore. Frankly, if we want a salary cap, let the Dodgers play. The season's already kind of a joke with Kyle Tucker on it. In the trade world, hey man, be more upset that the Brewers are trading that guy away. I mean,
Harrison's
if the Brewers
brother master. Nobody cares about the bleeping Dodgers. Move on. Okay. I care about them. They're the biggest.
And this is
story in
BK's
Major League
show.
Baseball. That's right.
Yeah.
Do you not care about the Dodgers?
No.
Really?
Once they got Kyle Tucker, why? Why should I care about them?
Because
But they've been doing this for the last 3 years.
not to this degree.
Dude, they went and got Shohei Ohtani. Then they went out there and they signed the best Japanese pitcher that was available on the market twice. Like, they signed Blake Snell. They go get Tyler Glasnow. Like,
Sure. This season, they have all of those things already, and they added Kyle Tucker.
but they already had Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman.
Exactly.
They've been doing this for 3 years, man.
They're hoarding the top talent in Major League Baseball. And if I hear one more insider say, yeah, but they don't have access to those guys in the draft. No, but they pay hundreds of millions of dollars for them, or they trade the prospects that they have accumulated because they're really good at this. I understand they're really good at the draft and develop model, and then they use that to supplement their roster. They're really good at all of these things. And maybe in a capped sport, they would still be a well-run organization. They would not be this. They could not be this. Nobody can be this in a capped sport. It is impossible to do so because you can't have all of the same built-in advantages as the Dodgers currently do. So yes, I very much care about the Dodgers because what this is doing is ruining the sport that I really love. That nobody feels as though they have a chance going into the season. That has never been the case before in Major League Baseball. Never. Maybe in like the 20s. I don't know. I wasn't alive back then.
Kind of felt that way last year. I mean, we all knew the Dodgers were going to be the team that won it, right?
It did, but in the middle of the season with all of their injuries, it felt like, okay, maybe.
Yeah,
Can we be honest about the injuries? I'm not sure how hurt those guys really were.
That's fair.
And the regular
Blake Snell
season
had a shoulder injury that kept him out for 4 months, and they called it like inflammation.
And the regular season doesn't matter when you're the Dodgers. When you have all those guys, all that matters is you get to the playoffs.
Fair. Totally fair. And the National League wasn't very good last year.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Compared to what it has been in the past.
So that's why when I see
But
this,
it
it's
feels
like
even more inevitable now than it ever has before with the Dodgers. And it feels more inevitable right now than it has at any point for, 40 years in Major League Baseball for any team to win the World Series. And it's because of the inequities that exist right now in Major League Baseball with their payroll. They're going to pay like $400 million to their payroll this year. They are paying more this season to Kyle Tucker than the Cardinals are to their entire 26-man roster. I'm not exaggerating. That is literally true. The Cardinals this year, their 26-man roster that's actually here, the guys that will be a part of the team, excluding the money they're sending elsewhere for players that are playing for other teams this year, they will be paying more, the Dodgers will, for their new addition in their outfield than the Cardinals will be for their 26-man roster. That's...
Well,
it's a different level, man.
And I think their luxury tax, what they pay in the luxury tax, is more than I think it's like 10 teams in baseball, which is an absurd thing to hear. But I don't like I agree it is a problem. The problem that I have, though, is I don't see baseball fixing it. And I guess that's why I've just become numb to the issue, I guess, of, hey, man, I don't know how you build to beat the Dodgers, but someone's going to have to try and figure it out. I guess our best hope is the 5th highest payroll in the Blue Jays. But I have no faith in baseball fixing this because the players view this as great for them, right? And I can't see Manfred getting all these owners on the same page of like, hey, we should go to a salary cap. Sure, Pittsburgh would love that. Sure, the DeWitts would love that. Dude, the Dodgers are playing checkbook baseball. The Dodgers don't want to do that. The Phillies probably don't want to do this. Steve Cohen doesn't want a salary cap in this situation.
Understood, but I think that the smaller market teams for the first time are actually outnumbering what the Dodgers are wanting and what the Mets are wanting and what the Cubs are wanting. It's the first time where I think the narrative and the support for something new has actually outweighed these teams that are not interested.
You got to
in
get all
so.
30 teams in agreement, right?
Sure, but you only need
lose.
8. You only need 8 to avoid signing whatever the deal is that's presented to them. So this is why I think it's going to be really hard, is because there is such a great divide between the haves and the have-nots, more so than ever before. I don't know how they get this deal done. Like, truly, I don't know what is the middle ground, because I'm not sure a middle ground exists.
Yeah.
And
that's why you go into a lockout, and you're going to have it probably for a full year.
My fear is what they will do. I don't think the players will sign on for this, but my fear is they're going to settle on, well, we'll put in a floor, but we won't put in a hard ceiling.
Can't.
Yeah, you can't do that.
I don't see it happening.
Have the floor without the ceiling.
Then you're going to miss more
you
baseball.
could do like what the NBA is doing, where you still have the luxury tax number, right? Like I think that's what they're looking at doing.
Well,
exactly.
What the NBA
right
is
now there's kind of a
cap.
Right now the cap is the luxury tax for some of these teams. But the problem is there's no floor.
If you're the owners, there's no willingness to implement the floor without the ceiling. If you're one of these smaller market teams, why would I agree to that? We already have something close to what you're talking about with the ceiling. So I'm getting all of the bad of this, if I'm thinking through as a small market owner, of having to spend more with none of the benefits, which is tamping down the top of it. So why would I agree to that deal? There is no reason.
I don't see the top agreeing to a deal, though, either. Like, this is the problem.
This is where they get into a bad situation of not being able to agree on it.
And we can say that they're not going to agree on it, but when you start missing work for 6 months, 9 months, a year, and then the threat of it missing another year, people are starting to lose money, and then you start wanting to cave.
Here's the problem, though, is like the players, I think, have the better leverage in the negotiation because they realize what the owners are seeing, which is, man, you cannot shut down baseball when it is peaking right now, where it is attendance is at an all-time high. The TV ratings are great. By the way, you've got the TV packages coming up in 2028 as a whole from the national perspective. You can't miss an entire year and lose momentum, and the players see that as well. And I think the players are smart, and they're going to stay together on there. I think there's more infighting on the owners than there is on the player side. Because the players can, I don't know if all of them agree on it, but the vast majority agree, hey, cap's not good for us, right? We don't want a salary cap. Meanwhile, you've got the owners of what we were just talking about, right? Where the lower end of the owners don't want the floor without capping the top, and the top end owners are saying, well, we're not capping ourselves, so there's more infighting there. And by the way, the top end owners are saying, we've got our TV situation figured out. We don't really care about what your guys' problem is. So there's more infighting on that side of it than there is on the players' union. There is no easy solution for this. Again, this is what I said last week when we were talking about this. I think Manfred has all the right ideas in his heart of hearts. He took too long to get to that spot, and I don't even know if you were ever going to really get to that spot either.
A couple texts to respond to from the 314. Guys, they're plus 240 on DraftKings right now to win the World Series. Right. Last night, just to put that in context, that's roughly the equivalent to what Miami was to win that game last night. Not to win the national championship at the beginning of the season where you have to win the 12 games and then get to the playoffs and then get through that gauntlet. No, to win just last night, to win one game, they were effectively somewhere right around plus 240. The Dodgers, before playing a game this season, have as good of a chance to win the World Series as Miami did of winning one game on one day against Indiana University. That's where we've arrived, and that's the problem with Major League Baseball. Somebody else compared this to the Yankees in the late 90s. Yes, there is a significant difference in my mind from the Yankees in the 90s to where the Dodgers are today. The Dodgers, when you look at their lineup and the way that it is constructed, here is how they have acquired all these players. Free agent, trade, free agent, free agent, free agent, free agent, trade, amateur free agency. The one guy that is actually legitimately homegrown was Will Smith, who was drafted in the first round in 2016. That's it. Every other piece of their lineup of significance is either trade or free agency. The same thing is basically true of their rotation. They have a guy that was brought over from the NPB and then free agent, trade, free agent, drafted in the 6th round, Emmett Sheehan, who might be gone by opening day for a trade, and amateur free agency from Japan, Roki Sasaki. They are buying these players, as opposed to the Yankees, Jorge Posada, drafted and developed. Derek Jeter, drafted and developed. Bernie Williams, drafted and brought in from international free agency. Andy Pettitte, guy that spent his entire career with the New York Yankees. And then Mariano Rivera, entire career with the Yankees.
Big spin was A-Rod.
Yeah, but that was after. That was
that's
after
true.
they had
built their
already
core
built
and then
a
they added
dynasty.
to it. Yeah.
A-Rod was later.
So the Yankees, because their owner was elsewhere for a little while, they were able to build a core of homegrown players that is completely different than what we are witnessing with the Dodgers. They are in no way similar. This is building through free agency and building through trades because teams can't continue to build around their core. Like they were able to get Mookie Betts because another team refused to spend the $300 million that it would have taken to hold on to him. So, yeah, it is not in any way, shape, or form similar to what the Yankees did in the 90s, other than the winning. Coming up next, we'll talk to Jeremy Rutherford, our Blues insider for The Athletic.
Tanner Hendrickson here, the Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Blues back in action tonight as they visit the Winnipeg Jets. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 6 o'clock tonight with Alex Ferrario. Puck drop at 7 o'clock with Chris Garber and Joey Vitale. The Sports Center update is brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
Happy to go out to the Callier and Thompson hotline to be joined by our friend, the Blues insider for The Athletic, Jeremy Rutherford, joining us here on the show ahead of the Blues game tonight against the Winnipeg Jets. JR, it was, I guess, 9 months ago that these teams met in the NHL playoffs, and it was one of the better postseason series among any team in last year's playoffs. And now they're 2-3 in the projected NHL draft standings. How did we get here?
That's exactly what I was looking at a couple minutes ago. I just can't believe it. I can't believe I was sitting in that Winnipeg press box watching the two teams that we watched, and it was a great epic series. I think some said it was maybe the best series throughout the playoffs, especially the first round. And then now here we are, and they're fighting over Gavin McKenna and Ivar Stenberg. This is insanity. You know, how did we get here? We know that what the story is here in St. Louis. Just haven't been able to put together any type of consistency. And you know, I know Winnipeg's had some issues too. They were without Connor Hellebuck for the large portion of the early part of the season, and then they lost some players to free agency. So things not going well there. I talked to a radio station in Winnipeg; they're beside themselves too. And but I guess on the bright side, here we are talking about Gavin McKenna and Ivar Stenberg.
So the big news yesterday, JR, of course, is Steve Ott taking the role for the AHL Springfield Thunderbirds head coach. I'm sure you've talked to some people since that news broke yesterday. What have you learned in the decision for the Blues going that path?
Yeah, and traded text with Steve Ott. He's excited, going to get down to Springfield. I guess it's going to be later in the week. He needed to come home from the road trip, gather his stuff, and then join the Thunderbirds. You know, what a abrupt situation for him. But, you know, I think if you step back and look at it, it makes a ton of sense. And I know there's been the debate back and forth. Is this, you know, a demotion? Is this an opportunity for Steve Ott? Look, at some point, he was going to be a head coach, and you have to put your time in the minors. At least most coaches do. You know, Jim Montgomery is settled in here in St. Louis on a 5-year contract, and so Steve Ott, who a couple years ago I think was looking to be a hot commodity in the NHL coaching ranks in terms of the assistants who were coming up, he's going to get a chance to prove himself at the American Hockey League. So that team struggled all year. They're at last place in the Atlantic Division, and so Steve Ott's going to go in and relate to the players. I'm sure he's familiar with a lot of them already, seen some of them in camp, probably talked about a lot of them behind the scenes, and now he's got a chance to get his feet wet as a head coach and see what he can do. And, you know, if we see Steve Ott back on the Blues bench next year as an assistant coach, perhaps we do, but I think at this point, probably his path is to take those steps towards being his own boss behind the bench.
I'm going to ask a really stupid question here, JR. Is this a promotion or a demotion?
Well, I see it as not a demotion. That's the way I see it. Like, I think people can look at it and say, okay, look, the Blues were probably going to make a coaching change with some of the assistants on the bench after the season. Things have not gone well defensively. You have Mike Weber. Do you move on from Mike Weber? Then you get into a little bit of a situation with Steve Ott, who could not be any tighter with Alexander Steen, Doug Armstrong. I don't think we would have seen a day where a press release came across that said Steve Ott has been fired, relieved of his duties. I just think that relationship is just too close. If a change needed to be made at this level, you know, I think they would have went their separate directions. Is this a way of doing that? Yes, but this is also, I think, what Alexander Steen and Doug Armstrong want for Steve Ott is to be a head coach in the league someday. And listen, we're not talking about a guy who's done it 2 or 3 years. This is his 9th season. Like, if he's going to do this, he had to take this step.
So you kind of answered my question, JR, in the previous one of will we see Steve Ott again? Because my thought when this news was announced was I think that's the end of us seeing Steve Ott in St. Louis, because he's either going to be the Thunderbirds head coach again next year or he's going to take a head coaching job in the NHL. But I've already seen a lot of people react to, cool, this is the Blues waving the white flag for the rest of the season. I don't know how this move is the one that's waving the white flag, but when you hear that, what's your reaction?
Well, I think behind the scenes, that's probably been the case for quite a while. I mean, when you hear Doug Armstrong say the things he did to us a few weeks ago, out at Centene, talking to a couple reporters about where things stand with the season, I think when you hear kind of behind the scenes rumblings about he's ready to sell, that's not a team who is, hoping, even though they're 4 or 5 points out of a playoff spot throughout, the past couple of weeks, that, hey, this team wants to make a push, get into the playoffs. I mean, yes, if that happens, nobody's going to object to that, in the front office. But I think they are laying the groundwork, making the phone calls to change out some of the roster. And whether that's the core, we talk about Buchnevich, Kyrou Thomas, I think those phone calls have been made, or whether it's Falk and Shen and Binnington, 2 or 3 of the guys who make most sense in terms of term and left on their contract, and is it time to move on from them, and can you get something for them? I think all those conversations are being had. So to me, no. Sending Steve Ott to Springfield to take over for a team that was in last place and kind of help jumpstart his coaching career is, if there are some signs waving a white flag, that's certainly not the biggest one.
Jeremy Rutherford joining us here on 101 ESPN. You can find his work over at The Athletic. You can follow him on Twitter at JP Rutherford. JR, I did want to ask you, scary scene on the ice the other night as Oscar Sundqvist, he goes down and then you see the players kind of go toward him and they immediately call for medical assistance. Do you have any update on what specifically happened with Sonny and how long they think he could potentially be out for with this?
Yeah, they have not said anything about a timetable. I know Jim Montgomery said a couple nights ago that they just are fortunate that the cut did not, affect his Achilles, that it wasn't as severe as it could have been. Now, he did say that it was deep. So I'm not on the road with the team, full disclosure. Maybe we'll get an update from Jim Montgomery today when he speaks with the media in Winnipeg. Should be within the hour after the Blues morning skate. But, this one's a situation where, hey, let's let the Blues announce the update on Sonny. I haven't made a phone call today to find out any more on that. So I would suspect that we would know something soon. And, I think big picture, we know that he's going to miss some time. And our thoughts are with Oscar Sundqvist, who, for years here in St. Louis has been a battler.
JR, the last 48 hours, we've seen a couple of trades go down in the National Hockey League. Rasmus Anderson moved, and then Kiefer Sherwood moved yesterday. Are you surprised that the Blues haven't made any moves yet? And do you think they could be coming prior to this Olympic break?
Yeah, I'm always on ready, got the radar going here.
Trade Watch 2026.
It's seriously because, and especially, the Kiefer Sutherland, I thought, did I say Kiefer Sutherland? Sherwood, I'm sorry, not the actor.
Yeah, great actor in 24, though.
It was a great actor. Kiefer Sherwood, who, by the way, is a Blues killer, right? What's he got, 2 hat tricks against the Blues? He's been phenomenal. So a little bit surprised that he was moved, this soon before the deadline. A little surprised that it was San Jose, but not surprised that moves are starting to happen. As far as the Blues go, I look at it 2 different ways. And, I just kind of separated the 2 categories of trades the Blues are, probably looking to make or at least exploring. You got the core guys, and then you got these aging veterans who maybe they're ready to move on from or see who they can get. And I think it's a situation where they're not going to make trades where they're selling for pennies on the dollar. Doug Armstrong made that abundantly clear a few weeks ago. So if you're talking about the Thomases, the Kyrous, and the Buchneviches, even though all 3 haven't had great seasons, they're just not going to move those guys for, let's say, a second-round pick. Or, I just don't think that's going to happen. Doug Armstrong knows the ability of those players when they're playing well, and he's going to try to get value for them. And then in terms of the other guys, the other group, you look at Falk, you look at Shen, you look at Binnington, probably more so Falk and Shen. That's going to be a case where I think the price, if the Blues are going to get the price they want for those guys, is probably going to go up as we get closer to the deadline. Probably no reason for Doug Armstrong to be in a rush with those players.
Kiefer Sutherland and Kiefer Sherwood, both in the news for very different reasons.
Oh, yeah, Kiefer Sutherland's not good reasons.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Don't punch and choke your Uber driver. Allegedly. Don't do that. Yeah, not great. JR, appreciate the time as always, man. We'll talk with you again next week.
All right, sounds good, guys. Thanks.
You got it. That's Jeremy Rutherford, Blues insider for The Athletic, joining us as he does each and every Tuesday here on BK and Ferrario. You think we get something done prior to this roster freeze, Alex?
I don't
either.
I don't think you're going to see a hockey trade take place. And if I'm Doug, I don't trade Falk or Shen until right before the deadline when the price just continues to go up.
Got 2 weeks, basically, to get something done.
Yeah, and especially look, this sounds super negative to say, but if the Blues are trying to get the best pick possible, I don't know if trading pieces away does that, because what it does is it kind of lights a fire underneath some of the players. If you want to be bad, keep a roster out there that has been underperforming this season and let them play.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. You got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. 314-399-9646. That's the Your Comfort Service text line. Questions and answers coming up next.
BK, now that the football games have passed and we're waiting for the next weekend, you're probably thinking, man, what am I going to do? Oh, you still open up that Underdog app because there is plenty of action to get involved with, whether it's NBA or, as you know with me, I'm always looking at NHL. So I open it up with a slew of games tonight, and I first get my promo boost, 40% profit boost on my picks, and then I'm just going to go a straight point pick here, BK. I am saying lower on Suzuki points, higher on Quinn Hughes points, higher on Fantilli, Sanderson, Celebrini, and then why not throw in a higher on Dylan Holloway?
Yeah, why not?
Why not? 6 plays, you know what? 16-1 odds. It's going to hit.
It's for sure going to hit. Good thing you got that 40% profit boost.
And
Whether
the
you want to go
flex.
crazy like Alex, or if you just want to put in a couple of plays for tonight like me, you can do that over on the Underdog app. It's super easy to use. Choose whether your favorite players are going higher or lower on their stats. Get them right. You could win up to 5,000 times your catch. What are you waiting for? Download the app today. Use our promo code. That's BKO. Use the promo code BKO. That helps us out. It'll help you out. Score $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. It's promo code BKO. Underdog. Make plays. Win money. Must be 18 or older. Present in Missouri. Terms to apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, you got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Mizzou versus Georgia tonight. T-Bone, you're surprised Mizzou's favored?
Absolutely, I am. They are definitely not a better basketball team than the Georgia Bulldogs.
I agree. They are at home,
I don't care
however.
about the home road crap I get thrown out at me about the SEC.
Will you two just calm down?
By the way, Missouri is now an underdog, plus 1.5 at home
was quick.
against
Well,
the
that
Georgia
changed from
Bulldogs.
this morning
Damn.
then.
But the money line is basically even. It's a pick 'em either way. I think Georgia will probably win this game, but it being at Mizzou Arena is what makes it possible for Mizzou. I think T-Bone definitely has a...
I don't know, man. I was there what was that, last week? Watching a midweek game. It was like watching bingo at the retirement center.
Hey, sometimes
no
those are-
atmosphere.
sometimes
Kids are
those are
back at
fun.
the school now, which makes a huge difference. A massive
I don't know if you've
difference.
ever been to bingo, but those people take that seriously.
You better believe it.
That's like a rowdy crowd. If you stand up and yell bingo and don't have it, you might as well cut your fingers off.
All right, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. From the 314, you get to start a team. You're using 6 current Blues players. You get a left wing, a center, a right wing, 2 defensemen, and a goalie. Who are you choosing?
I got to limit this to Blues?
Ooh.
Yeah, Blues players.
Okay, goalie's Hofer.
Yep.
I know.
I don't think that was a surprise. Yeah.
Well, it is because I'm a Bennington.
He's clearly
honk.
our number one.
Broberg and Juracek would be my 2 defensemen.
Yeah.
My wingers would be Snuggerud and Neighbors. Ooh, the center's going to be tough.
Not Holloway.
No.
or
Stenberg. I thought about Stenberg, but I need a shooter, and I need a guy. And my only hesitancy with Holloway is he's got injuries now, and I'm a little worried about that sustaining moving forward. Neighbors finds a way to play with 2 broken arms. Man, the center comes down to Dvorsky or Thomas.
Yeah, I'm going Thomas. Yeah. He's a better player.
I think I am too.
Better player.
That would be mine.
I think I agree with that.
I think I agree with every single choice that you made.
I'll get another Stenberg in the draft.
I might go Holloway over Neighbors.
The injuries
The
are just what
upside might be a
worries
little
me.
high. I get it.
The thing with, because I saw JR had this in his PC call, he mentioned, didn't call him, but mentioned how he can be injury prone. I'm going to bank on he's not an injury prone guy later in his career
And
because
look
we've
at
seen
the
this with guys
injuries.
in the past.
Look at the injuries. I mean, you had his hip
I
and
think
then
it's
his
hard to be
ankle.
quote unquote injury prone in the NHL because most of them are like getting drilled into the boards for injuries. Like baseball, like when you pull a muscle like Newbar has done before where he pulls it on a swing. To me, that is more injury prone because that's kind of your muscle giving out on itself. Not I got hit by a 200-pound defenseman that came flying in and drilled me into the boards.
The concern is just Robbie Fabry for me. Robbie Fabry was a guy that, I mean, that first season, I don't know if you guys remember, it was 2015, 2016. He had 18 goals as a 19-year-old, and it's like, oh, my God. And then he had multiple ankle injuries. He was and Dylan Holloway's not this small, but he was smaller in stature that he got injured a
Jaden
lot.
Schwartz could also be the comparison. We compared him to Jaden Schwartz when we first saw him play.
And Jaden, early on in his career, dealt with a lot of injuries.
Couldn't stay on the ice.
That's just my concern with Holloway. Again, his work ethic is second to none on this roster. The injuries would be what would worry me if I'm banking on him moving forward.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. From the 618, guys, who wins among Josh Schertz's top 25 ranked mid-majors? Indiana State 2 years ago or this season's SLU team? I'm taking the Sycamores. This SLU team's sick, man. They're really good.
Did you do that on purpose? SLU team's sick, not the Sycamores?
Oh, no, I didn't, but it would have been good if I did.
Yeah, you should have, man. You should have thought about
I'd go with the SLU team. I think this team's better.
I would, too.
More
I think they're
athletic.
That's what I was just about to say.
I've more and more enjoyed watching Kellen Thames just dominate basketball every game that I've seen. It's fun.
So good.
Is he going to stay? Like,
I haven't checked what the draft status is for him. I would assume so.
Because he's a St. Louis kid, so you'd think you'd stay. But my God, if this team is a tournament team, and I think everybody's going to be calling in the transfer portal and offering a lot of money.
Biggest
No doubt.
concern for SLU should be is Josh Schertz going to stay.
Yeah.
I mean, if he's done this at SLU in 2 years, you better bet there's going to be some Power 4, Power 5 programs calling.
They're reportedly
And they
making
should.
that move, right? To the Big East. Isn't that what the talk is?
For SLU,
It's more of
people
wishing
would like
than-
to see it.
Okay, because I was going to say, if they do that, I would imagine if you're Schertz, now there's incentive to stay because you're moving up.
I mean, yes and no. The Big East is a good conference, don't get me wrong. It's a really good basketball conference, but if you get an opportunity to go...
The ACC.
Yeah, ACC.
Or not the ACC,
Big
the SEC.
Ten.
Yeah. It's kind of like the American and college football, I would say, where it is, it's kind of the 5th best conference. I think it's better than the American in football, but you would always be more open to an upgrade if the one becomes available.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers from the 573. Alex, could you please list your picks again for tonight? Thank you. Mike.
Got to pull it back up on my app. On the Underdog app, promo code BKO, lower on Suzuki points, higher on Sanderson, higher on Stutzla, higher on Celebrini, higher on Kucherov, and then higher on Holloway points. I say that too fast. I'm going to have to type it out.
I think you got it. Just use the promo code BKO. That's promo code BKO whenever you download the Underdog app.
Create your own.
There you go.
It's your own field. Enjoy it.
Do you think the Blues really scoring 8 goal tonight?
Yeah.
That's how Holloway gets a point.
They're going up against Eric Comrie for the Winnipeg Jets. If you don't, then we got a problem.
Well,
No, we stink against number ones.
Jay Glazer reporting Mike Tomlin is likely done with coaching. I know people also say, could Mike Tomlin come out of retirement? That's not happening. Mike T is done.
Probably got a great TV deal.
Yeah.
Probably got a hell of an offer to go on an analyst job somewhere, and they're like, yeah, I'm not doing this anymore.
I wonder if he's going to get a job with Fox. That would make a lot of sense.
Would make
as
sense.
part of the pregame show.
And they have a lot of coaches that I would imagine are probably trying to phase themselves out a little bit.
Bradshaw's like 100 years old.
Yeah, and they've never.
He's still entertaining, by the way.
They've never replaced Jimmy Johnson either.
Yeah.
I think they're one player or one person short on what was their typical.
I could see that being a really good fit for him.
And if I'm getting that amount of money, probably more money than I was going to get for coaching somewhere, I'd be done with coaching too.
With Alex and T-Bone on BK. Coming up next, a lot of people making sweeping statements about what Indiana winning the national championship means for college football. Does this mean anybody can do it? Or is it maybe a little more nuanced than that? We'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here, and championship weekend is upon us, and DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Looking to the AFC championship game, look, the Broncos on their backup quarterback. I love the Patriots, -5.5, and as we saw last weekend, the Broncos really struggled to stop James Cook. I think big running game coming from New England, so I'm going Ramondre Stevenson, 50-plus rushing yards in this contest, and I'm going with a Stevenson anytime touchdown. And get this, with DraftKings, they've got your back this NFL playoffs because they've got early exit protection. So if you have a player in your eligible NFL prop bet, like I do in Ramondre Stevenson, if he goes down at any point in the first half, you still get paid in cash. And DraftKings also has got great live betting options as well this NFL postseason. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code TANNER, that's code TANNER, to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER, 21 plus, physically present in Missouri. Eligibility and restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets which expire in 7 days. Additional terms at dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. So a lot of people are making sweeping proclamations about what last night's win from Indiana means for college football. And I think a lot of college football fans left that saying, why not us? If Indiana can do it, and they've never won 10 games prior to Curt Cignetti's arrival, why can't we now have a similar kind of ride if we get the right coach in here? I understand the sentiment, Alex, and as a fan, all you want is hope. I mean, we just talked about this a few segments ago with Major League Baseball. The fact that very few fan bases, really just one, have hope going into this regular season speaks to the problem that Major League Baseball has on its hands, and they have to find a solution for that. In college football, more teams have hope today than have at any point in the history of the sport. I truly do believe that. How many teams can actually pull off what Indiana did, though? One. Indiana.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Illinois.
Mizzou.
Because if you don't have Curt Cignetti, you don't have the main ingredient. It's like saying teams can follow the path of the New England Patriots. Well, yeah, you could take in the 7th round the greatest quarterback in the history of sports, and you could hire Bill Belichick, and then you could surround him with the talent, and then for the next 20 years, you become the dominant team in the NFL. That could all happen. That's technically possible. It never did happen for anybody else in the league, and anybody that tried to steal the ideas from the Patriots, it was like this rotten tree that you have poisoned fruit from every time that you try to rip off your piece of that respective tree. But, people tried it for about 20 years, and it failed every single time. So I'm sure people will continue to try to follow the Indiana model, whatever you deem that to be, whether it's older transfers or not paying as much attention to recruiting rankings or going and getting your guy that had success at the D2, D3 level and then making him your head coach, or just investing in your team and going to your billionaire that's Mark Cuban and saying, hey, give us $25 million. We'll go out there and get a winning roster. You can do all of those things. I don't think that it's likely you end up having the same amount of success as Indiana, though, because you don't have the most important variable, which is Curt Cignetti, who, in my opinion, is currently the best coach in all of college football.
And that's why I think there are a lot of teams that live in a fantasy world that just believe they'll find the next Curt Cignetti. Mm-hmm. That's where, when I've seen all the people and heard all the people talking about how, well, why not us? Everyone in the next couple of years is going to be like, let's go to a D2 school and find the next young buck, which I can't believe I just called Curt Cignetti a young buck, but let's find the next up-and-coming guy to just step in and take over because he knows how to identify talent in college football and mold them into Heisman winners. And I think that is going to fail miserably. I think you're going to see a run of just new hires of young coaches. They're like, wait, who? And it's going to be bad in 3 years, and people are paying these guys to go away because that's what happens. Sports are a copycat world. Everybody wants to be like the champion. But this one, I think everyone's going to start trying to find the next Curt Cignetti. And, I mean, you're not going to just find a guy who's at James Madison to just all of a sudden become the next big thing in college football.
Yeah, I agree. You're probably going to see a lot of teams try it, because I think they're going to think this is a lot easier than it really is. And the reality is, I think BK used the perfect analogy. It's like drafting Tom Brady in the 7th round.
Good luck.
You got like a 1% chance that it works. And it's
probably
probably less than that. And so, in theory, sure, it's easy to look at Indiana and go, well, why can't we do what Indiana did? Yeah, but look at how many things they got right. They got the right coach in place, which is the number one starting point for all of this. Then he's able to bring in some boosters to help along. By the way, then he's able to bring in the roster from James Madison that was underappreciated, and then add on top of it in the portal and go out and find all these hits. Odds are when you do what Cignetti did and bringing in all these different transfers is not all of them hit, and you end up being short in a spot. And he ended up doing this perfectly to where he built the most complete roster that we have in college football today. Not many teams are going to be able to do that, but I think we are going. I think really you saw this year. You're going to see a lot of colleges think that it's a lot easier said than done, and you're going to see a lot more coaches get put on the hot seat, just like we saw this year where, let's be honest, it was partly because they fell apart. James Frankel was partly fired because he couldn't do what Curt Cignetti did, and he was at a bigger program than what Curt Cignetti is at. You saw this with a lot of these other schools that were making these changes of, hey, we're Florida. Why can't we get back to what Indiana's doing? All right, well, we're going to move on from our head coach and go hire the next group of 5 coach that we think can be that guy.
And I actually think that's fair. To me, when you look at those big-time programs, they can look at Indiana and say, if they can do this, why can't we? That to me, I get that sentiment. I think the thing that's changed with Indiana is, and I say this as a Mizzou fan, I think some Mizzou fans look at it and say, well, if Indiana can do it, why can't we? And maybe they can, but Indiana doing it doesn't mean that you will, and doesn't mean that it's easier suddenly to be able to do this than it has been. It just means Indiana broke through, and they found the coach that makes it possible, and lucky for them, they found the coach that's also willing to stay. Because most of the time, you get this kind of you get last year at Indiana, and he's gone.
Well, look at
One
Lane
great
Kiffin.
season, and it's over for, Lane at Ole Miss finally takes them to the playoff, has a roster that's at least capable, clearly,
Got to
of
the
getting to the Final
semifinal.
Four. And he says, I don't think you can do it here. I'm going to LSU. I'm out. So I do think it's a little more nuanced than this idea that, hey, if Indiana can do it, anybody can. I'm not so sure. Well Endowed on the text line says, the quarterback at every level of football is always the key component, period, end of discussion. Mendoza had more to do with it than the head coach. Mendoza was hugely important. Absolutely. Mendoza also committed to Indiana in part because of the head coach. Curt Cignetti's ability last year to improve a quarterback that came from Ohio to being one of the top quarterbacks in the country a year ago in terms of his efficiency, and ultimately getting him drafted as like a 25-year-old that entered the NFL draft this past year. For him to be able to show that proof of concept and to get to the playoff with him, if you're Fernando Mendoza, you go into the portal. First of all, your brother's on the roster. That's important. Second of all, the coach can come to you and say, look, this is what the plan is going to be that's in place for you. This kid was an afterthought. We made him into a 7th-round pick. We can make you from a mid-round selection to the number 1 overall pick if you come here and follow all of the ideas of what we have in place for you. So, yes, quarterback, very important. I would never disagree with that sentiment. The coach is part of why that quarterback was there.
That was my thought as well. Like, Mendoza was great, but I don't know if Mendoza is this without Curt Cignetti believing in him and also molding him into what Mendoza is now. Like, you don't just all of a sudden go have the success that Mendoza did without having a coach that knows how to tweak you the right way to get to the level you're at.
Don't get me wrong, like, you need to have the quarterback. I think Indiana showed as well, like, you have to have a complete roster if you're going to go out and win a national title. Because we can talk about Mendoza as the Heisman winner. We can talk about Curt Cignetti as the guy that built the roster. He didn't just lure in the quarterback. Dude, that roster was complete head to toe, man. Like, that offensive line, we talked about it. Great offensive line. They could run the football. They had Mendoza that could make the passes. They had a pretty good wide receiver group. That defense was elite this year. When you watch them up front at the linebacker spot, at the corner spot, they weren't getting to Carson back, yet he couldn't complete a pass because their secondary was so good. So, yes, he got the quarterback, which is important. He also was able to build that roster in its entirety and have no weakness. And a lot of what we see in college football is, I think Mizzou's a perfect example of this. They built a pretty good roster last year. They missed on 2 big spots, though. Quarterback, significant, and secondary. They didn't have the secondary, even though they had an elite edge rush coming off of the edge for them this year.
From the 3-1-4, going into this year, you wouldn't have said Indiana could win it all either. That's true. And Cignetti is old. You weren't touting him as the best coach in the nation, but now you are. Correct, because now he did it. And he did it after he made it to the college football playoff with that same program in year 1 of being there. So, yes, I agree. We underestimated Indiana coming into the season. There's no doubt about that. And maybe there is another coach that can follow this formula and they're able to take, whoever the next program is. That's a complete afterthought. Maybe it's Arkansas. Maybe it's Illinois. I have no idea who that program would be, but a program that's an afterthought right now, and they become a powerhouse the way that we've never viewed them before. I suppose it's possible. The likelihood of it happening, though, is incredibly low, and it's what makes this story of Indiana so remarkably special. I never thought I would see something like this in college football. Never. In my lifetime. And part of this is the transfer portal. Part of it is NIL. Part of it is Curt Cignetti. Part of it is, a billionaire getting behind this team. Part of it is probably what Cignetti said after the game last night, where they have the largest alumni base in the country of any state school. So, there's a lot of stuff going for Indiana, similar to Mizzou, where, hey man, technically in 5 years, it will be the only big-time football program that exists within the state of Missouri. There will be no more Chiefs. There is no Rams already in this specific state. So they would be the big thing in town, so to speak. There's, some value in that. But, yeah, this notion that suddenly anybody can compete at a national level and you're going to be able to compete for titles, I don't know. Get to the playoff, sure.
The disrespect to Missouri State, unbelievable. You know they're FBS now. You know they could build something.
They had a really good year.
They did. You're just gonna blow it off for your freaking Tigers.
Yeah, and I don't.
Shame.
I don't feel bad about that whatsoever.
I don't think he's wrong.
Shame on you two.
I don't think he's wrong.
You guys think we're going to get an expansion of the playoff?
No, I
the
hope not.
deadline is Friday to do so.
No.
Every time I say no with the NCAA, though, they find a way to be like, oh, no, joke's on you. We've had this in the works. No, I don't think so.
The Big Ten and the SEC are like the Bickersons. They can't get along at all.
I think this was a pretty successful year for college football that I don't know if they feel as antsy to extend it right away. I think you're still going to see the expansion probably in 2-3 years. I don't think it's going to happen on Friday.
I don't think the Big Ten and the SEC can agree to it. Big Ten apparently wants a guarantee that it'll go to 24. The SEC's like, nah, 16 or nothing. And when you have a divide like that, and we've been doing this for how long now, where we're trying to get to that 16 teams, I don't think they're going to change anything. I do hope that a lesson to be learned from this year, because last night's game was awesome. It was amazing. We shouldn't have played it last night. We should have played this thing like 2 weeks ago. And the biggest thing that college football needs to get figured out, even more so than expansion, because I thought 12 was fine. This was a great format, man. It was awesome. This entire postseason was great for college football. I think that you should move the season up a little bit. We don't need this month-long break between the end of the season and the start of the playoff. We could have less time between them.
I need the GoDaddy Bowl to be played, though.
Well, we could still play those bowls and also move the postseason up a little bit.
Walk and chew gum at the same time?
I think so. We're already doing them at the same time. You might as well continue down that path. I think next year I saw that we're like a week from yesterday is when the college football national championship would be played next year.
Oh, my gosh.
It's actually moving further back into the cycle.
Oh, great.
Hey, man, got to extend it as long as possible.
Hey, man, there's
Crazy.
they can't make any money by doing this, so they're not going to focus on it. But evident by what they're trying to do for the last 2 years, which is, hey, everything is so broken about college football. And they're like, hear me out. We'll work on that after we expand the playoff. No, we need to fix everything. How about we expand the playoff? No, the portal needs to be. No, it will expand the playoff.
I think there is money maybe even to be made, by the way, if they're able to push this thing up because of the amount of publicity you get from the playoff that does not currently exist, because so much of the attention is taken away by the NFL right now. You have all of these playoff games that are taking place in the NFL, and then you've got the coaching searches and everything that comes along with that as well. It's the number one story in America when it comes to sports. Other stuff is going on elsewhere. We don't have to get into that. We'll get into that in our politics podcast.
No, we will not. Oh, yeah, sure, your podcast.
The Western Hemisphere.
I thought you said the junk drawer.
But yeah, we could do that in the junk drawer if you'd prefer.
No.
I do think we have something prepared for that today, but we can go with the route if you
let's
want.
go back to the one where we just look around and say, well, what'd you do on the weekend?
But yeah, the biggest story in sports right now is the NFL, and we'll get into that coming up next year on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. You got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Time for some NFL quick hitters. News in the league today as the Titans are hiring San Francisco 49ers defensive coordinator Robert Saleh as their next head coach. Saleh getting another opportunity, a 5-year contract to be the Titans' new head coach. Alex, what do you think about the fit?
Oh, well, I like Robert Saleh. I think he's a good coach. I don't think it's going to go very well in Tennessee because the roster's not good. I mean, I think a lot of people were talking about how he was so instrumental in making that 49ers defense as good as it was this year, and rightfully so for the injuries they dealt with. You're not going to a team that's got that good of a roster that you can work with. So I think Robert Saleh is a fine head coach. I think it got overlooked because of how much of a disaster the New York Jets were. So I think he'll be okay. It's just not going to be all of a sudden, boom, Tennessee Titans are one of the better teams in their division next year.
Not a fan.
I'm not really either. I thought they were going to go offensive-minded.
Yep, agreed.
And I know, like, typically the pivot is, hey, if you hire an offensive coach and it fails, you then hire a defensive coach. Man, you've got Cam bleeping Ward, who was pretty good last year for you. I thought for sure they would be in on one of the Rams' assistants, whether it was LaFleur or their passing game coordinator. Shieldhouse. I thought they were going to be interested in those kind of guys. Shoot high, right? Mine as well, because we talked about this yesterday. I like the idea of building with a unproven head coach, but a high-rising coordinator, or in this case, passing game coordinator. And instead they went with a same old defensive-minded Robert Saleh, who I agree, I think could be a good head coach. I don't think he's in the right organization once again. I mean, as much as I like Cam Ward, let's just be honest about what the Titans are. They fire a GM, then fire a coach. Fire a GM, fire a coach. So I guess if he's going on the odds, I guess it's the GM's turn to be fired this year. But I don't think the fit's perfect for him.
I think this is where I fall now on coaching hires when you have a young quarterback. Like, my philosophy has changed on this a little bit. I used to be, hey, just to hire the offensive mind. I don't care. Just hire your offensive mind, because then you don't have to worry about him getting hired elsewhere and you're stuck. And you've got a coach in place that you actually needed as coordinator, not him. If you have a top 5 guy at the quarterback position, I think you could hire a defensive coach. Like, if the Bills decided this offseason, hey, we're actually going to go out there and make a hire that we didn't expect to, and we're going to hire Brian Flores. He's going to be in charge of the defense, and like Josh Allen's going to prop up whoever the OC is. I could see that working. If the Chiefs had an opening next year and they needed to hire a coach, I could understand them hiring a defensive-minded head coach because Pat has the offense. Same thing for the Ravens, for example. If you're a team, though, that has this young quarterback that's trying to get it right, the way that the Bears did last offseason or the way that the Titans do right now, I would definitely lean offensive mind unless there is somebody that I know is a really great coach like Mike Vrabel. Vrabel became available last offseason. You're the Patriots. You have this young quarterback. Dude, that guy's a really freaking good head coach. Just hire him, figure out the rest as you go. And it's obviously worked. But for the Titans, I would have liked to have seen them lean into the idea that their young quarterback is going to be paired with his play caller for the next 5 to 10 years if it goes well. It's obviously not the way that they decided to go about it.
Out of curiosity, based on what you laid out there for the kind of how you view the coaching position there, would you have liked the Matt Nagy hire? Because I know that was someone that they were rumored to have. I don't think that I would have still gone.
I wouldn't have liked that one. I don't think he's a good coach.
I agree.
I wouldn't have loved it, but I would have at least understood the process.
Yeah.
It would not have been particularly exciting, but I think Matt Nagy gets a little bit of a bad rap for what happened with him in Chicago. The fact that he was able to go well above 500 with Mitchell Trubisky as his starting quarterback speaks to the fact that maybe he's not a total dunce when it comes to him as a head coach. Now, as an OC, I think his time in Kansas City had come to an end, and it was time for him to move on, and he needed to go elsewhere. But I think he could be a good head coach somewhere. Some guys just are better at the head coaching position than they are as an offensive coordinator. Like, it's a collegiate level, not the NFL, but I think you look at what Drinkwitz has done at Mizzou, he's a better head man than he is as an offensive mind. And I think some people, that's the case for them. So that's my personal opinion on the matter. We do have 4 coaches that have been hired now. John Harbaugh with the Giants, Kevin Stefanski for the Falcons. I feel like that one went way under the radar. Just like it happened suddenly, and he's the coach now with Atlanta.
Tells you
Robert
more about the
Saleh,
Falcons than
as
Stefanski.
we just mentioned. Fair. And Jeff Hafley, the former Boston College head coach who decided, I'm leaving college football. I want to take the defensive coordinator job with the Green Bay Packers. Now the head coach with the Dolphins. This happened after we got off the air yesterday, Alex. What do you think about this?
I mean, I guess take your shot if you're the Miami Dolphins. This one makes no sense. Like, I know you didn't like the Robert Saleh one of the Titans. I don't like this one at all.
I hate this one. I think it's ridiculous.
The Dolphins are in a shamble already. They don't know what's going on with their quarterback. They've got a problem in the locker room with Tyreek Hill. Their team does not look like it's any way possible to be competent, and then you go out there and get a guy who's got no experience in the NFL as a head coach. This makes no sense, but hey, I guess you got to take your shot with the Dolphins.
This, to me, felt like we want Harbaugh, so we're going to move on from McDaniel, and then went, oh, crap, we missed out on Harbaugh.
Harbaugh doesn't want to come here.
All right, now we got to figure out what our pivot is, and then they went after him. I'm with you guys. I don't really understand the hire. I have my quarrels with Mike McDaniel. I'm not sure he's a great head coach. I would trust him to scheme things up and at least keep it more interesting than what this hire is.
This is a hired to be fired situation.
Yeah.
I don't know if Jeff Hafley had any other real opportunities to be a head coach in this cycle. His defense was not good this year with the Packers. It was completely reliant upon Micah Parsons being a game wrecker at the end of these games. I mentioned the stats to you guys. In the second half this year, nobody had a worse defense on average than the Green Bay Packers. Nobody. Which speaks to teams adjusting to his game plan. I think he did a pretty good job of game planning for, first 15 or so plays. And then as this game went along, it got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And are we going to be able to hold on here? And the answer was no by the end. I just don't think the guy's a very good coach. He wasn't very good at Boston College. He has not been very good in his 2 seasons so far in the NFL. I don't think he's going to do a very good job with the Dolphins. And he's also set up to fail. So I think this one goes south very quickly. Jeff Hafley, the next head coach of the Miami Dolphins.
Good for him. Got a 5-year deal.
God bless him, man. I hope it works for him, but I don't think it's going to. Ian Rappaport on NFL Network a little bit ago, Alex, said the following about the Bills' situation with Sean McDermott and why they decided to move on. Quote, the fact that McDermott with Josh Allen, with all of those weapons, with so much talent on defense, could not get to where they needed to go, could not get to the Super Bowl. This is something that's been weeks coming. My understanding is McDermott himself had some questions about how much talent the Bills had. I'm not sure that sat well with the building. The Bills wanted a new leader, end quote.
And sorry, go ahead.
With all those weapons and with so much talent on defense, can you guys help me understand? Who are those weapons and where is that talent on defense?
Nope.
Washed up talent on defense.
I mean, they got one weapon in James Cook, not Dalvin Cook. I messed that up yesterday. James Cook. Didn't you say earlier today that somebody had said that is not one of the better landing spots for a coach right now?
Correct, yeah.
Now I know why. I pushed back earlier. Now I know why. If I'm a head coach, I'm not going. Sean McDermott got fired because the general manager and ownership didn't like him saying, hey, our team stinks.
Man, you want to talk about something that reminds me a little bit of Mike Schilt here. No, I think there was other stuff beyond just the Schilt pushing back, but
I know now why Dan Graziano said that's not an ideal landing spot. I wouldn't want to go there if I'm a coach.
I would.
It doesn't matter if I've got Josh Allen, though. If they're living in la-la land that they think they've got weapons on offense and defense, and like your coach is like, hey, you don't have weapons.
I would just love to know who is the weapon they're talking about. They were throwing to Brandon Cooks by the end of it. Keon Coleman was a healthy scratch for half of the season this year. That was the guy that you drafted early in the second round this year. Shavers, a guy that I'd never heard of coming into the season, was running on one leg and was like the number one go-to guy outside of Khalil Shakir.
You have no offensive line to protect Josh Allen. Your defense has no pass rush. You got an older gentleman in your secondary who is probably your best defenseman this season. Like, I don't know how they are living in that fantasy world, and that's why if I'm a coach, Josh Allen, James Cook, you're incredible. I can't win if the general manager thinks this team is a winning team and it has no weapons to work with.
John Score says, BK, why do you hate Brandon Cooks? Touche. I liked Brandon Cooks at one point in time, but he's 100 years old.
Yeah, this screams the classic. Man, the GM we saw him get a promotion. This screams who has the ear of the owner, right? I mean, we saw this in Tennessee before Vrabel got out, right? Vrabel was the one who tried to win the battle, the power struggle, eventually ended up losing it. That's what happened here. Power struggle. Who did the owner end up siding with? He ended up siding with the GM in this case. And a GM protecting his job is what I just heard right there. Him selling ownership on, no, we actually have better talent. The coaches are maximizing that talent. And the owner bought it, right? The owner fell for that trick that the GM was able to do. So that's why McDermott's out. I'm kind of with Alex. If that's how they're approaching this, I don't know how you're selling them in these coaching meetings.
My guess is they're going to hire Dable.
Oof. Well, it makes sense. And you
Dable
gotta,
can look at the roster and go, I remember it being better.
yeah, but Dable's not going to say anything.
Yeah, Dable got let go already.
It's your only chance. Like, if you're Brian Dable, you're not getting another job. This is it. This is your one opportunity to be a head coach, and you get to be the head coach of Josh Allen, an alien who plays the quarterback position. So, yeah, you take the job.
I just looked at this because I was curious. You know, they draft a wide receiver, what was that, 2 years ago, to when they drafted Keon Coleman, 33rd overall. The next pick was Lad McConkey. I'd be a little concerned
That's
about
a
the guy
miss.
running my team right now if he thinks these weapons are good and doesn't know how to evaluate talent in the draft.
They also took Dalton Kincaid in the first round the year prior. And Dalton Kincaid has just flat out not been good.
Dawson Knox has been better than him every season.
Absolutely. He's a more well-rounded player. And we said this at the time. It was one of those things where they were like, we're going to use Dalton Kincaid like a wide receiver. Well, just take a wide receiver then.
Let's go look at who they took over or who they didn't take over Dalton Kincaid. What year
In
was
the
that?
2023 NFL draft, I can go ahead and look at it right now.
Look at that. I love doing this to find out how bad teams are. It's like, come on, man.
The rest of the first round really didn't have a whole lot. Nolan Smith went 31st. They could really use him as an edge rusher. That's the guy that plays edge for the Philadelphia Eagles. But beyond that, there's not a whole lot there. They could have moved up a little bit more and taken Jordan Addison or Zay Flowers. Quentin Johnston went 21. That was the year where it was like back to back to back to back. I remember as a Chiefs fan, it was annoying as hell. This is after I jumped the ropes to get back into the draft in Kansas City. At 20, Jackson Smith and Jigba. 21, Quentin Johnston. 22, Zay Flowers. 23, Jordan Addison.
Could have took Sam Laporta, though. A better tight end.
Yeah,
Go
that's
down,
tough.
go down a little bit further. Go down a little bit further.
Tough look.
Jaden Reed was taken 50th overall by the Packers.
Joey Porter Jr. was the 32nd overall selection, first pick in the second round. He's a stud corner now
I know
for
it's
the
kind
Steelers.
of ugly now because of the personal matters, but Rashee Rice was taken 55th overall. There's some problems in terms of
Brian
identifying
Branch,
talent.
45th overall. He was considered to be a first-round selection going into that draft and then kept falling and falling and falling. That guy's a stud. They could really use him on the back end.
I'd be very concerned about management within that team right now, and they're going to waste the next few years of Josh Allen.
Hell, even Jaden Reed went 50th overall. He's a good player for the Packers. Better than what they got.
You going to tell him?
No.
Okay.
Oh, did you say Jaden Reed?
Yeah.
Damn it.
Sorry, man.
It's amazing how similar the two are.
Damn it.
We really are, man. We're just two peas in a pod.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, a lot of people are saying, guys, Kincaid has been good. Based on what?
Dawson Knox has been better than him almost every single season.
You guys need to watch more of the Buffalo Bills.
Whoa. I'm sorry. Oh, that was Tony. That was Tony.
Dalton Kincaid has not been good. His years in the NFL, 670 yards, 448 yards, 571.
Finish him.
He has 9 total touchdowns in 3 seasons. He is not a good first-round selection. That is a bad failure of a first-round selection. I'm sorry.
You've clearly been talking to Sean McDermott. What is wrong with you?
I'm sorry. Like,
Do you listen to our GM
Dawson Knox was
president of football operations?
Dawson Knox was already on the roster this year and basically had the same season as Dalton Kincaid. And they drafted that guy in the first round.
50th overall pick was Jaden Reed.
Rock said tone. Yeah, I know. That was
It was worthy of a tone.
Also, that one was purposeful. Coming up next, do you think the Cardinals would have gone this route no matter what? We'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here. The Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Blues will be back in action tonight as they visit the Winnipeg Jets. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 6 o'clock with Alex Ferrario. Puck drop at 7 o'clock with Chris Kerber and Joey Vitale. The Sports Center update was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin Heating and Air Conditioning dealer.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. So do you think the Cardinals would have had to go this route no matter what? It's a question that I asked of Bill DeWitt III when we were out at Cardinals winter warm-up over the weekend. As I was listening to him talk, this was like the last question as part of his press conference. As I was listening to him talk, I thought to myself, man, everything you're saying seems to indicate like this was a fait accompli. You were going to have to go down this path. Because he was talking about, you know, the cable situation with FanDuel Sports Midwest and how much lost revenue there's going to be there, whether they go back to FanDuel or have to go under the Major League Baseball umbrella. He brought up the lack of tickets sold over the past couple of seasons, and I would assume they're probably going to project a drop in ticket sales once again for 2026. So you look at all of this lost revenue relative to expectations and relative to where they used to be. I mean, your payroll is typically a reflection of your revenues. That's been what they've sold to fans is, hey, we basically put out what we bring in. So it would stand to reason that if you're bringing in less, you're also putting out less. And that means having to go this direction. So I asked Bill DeWitt III, is that the case? Like, was this a necessary evil, regardless of the competitive nature of the team, where they decided to go to this full rebuild? And he talked for about a minute and a half, and just to be honest with you, I don't think he really answered the question.
The word salad, but he talked for 90 seconds.
Yeah, he went into how it's like a hypothetical that's hard to answer. I don't think it really is. It's the situation they're currently in. It's not a hypothetical scenario. It's, hey, this is where you're at. Were you going to have to divest from these big contracts no matter what? He chose not to answer the question. I gave him the opportunity. He said no. How do you feel, Alex? Do you think they were going to have to go this route no matter what? Was this always the plan?
I don't know if it was their plan, but I think you were going down this path no matter what. You started to lose that magic of finding the older veterans that could come in and like rejuvenate their careers, and you stopped having success developing younger guys for whatever reason that might be. So yeah, with the lack of TV money and that deal falling through and where they were at in terms of their competitiveness, no longer could you just say, well, we just need to get into the playoffs and anything can happen, because people started to see the writing on the wall. People stopped coming to the stadium because things weren't going well. And at some point, there was no more Cardinals magic that they had for the longest time, mostly because you didn't have two of the best in the game when it was Albert Pujols and Yadier Molina. So, yeah, I think they were headed for this place no matter what because of that TV situation and because of the lack of attendance and the success that they were having.
Yeah, I think they probably were heading down this no matter what, because I don't envision them as a deficit spender, essentially. And if they were going to have this amount of struggle with the TV deal, maybe it wouldn't be as bad as what it is, because if you were playing good baseball, then you still would have that ticket revenue that's there, but you're still losing a decent chunk of change from what your TV contract is. I think they're probably going to go that path anyway. I mean, they have never seemed to signal an organization that's willing to deficit spend, and I think this was the perfect cover-up to go through this now of, hey, we're not playing good baseball. You know what? We could, because based on the way they talked, I don't know if you got the same vibe. I don't think they necessarily wanted to enter a rebuild. I think it was...
It's not a rebuild.
Sorry, a build. I don't think... I didn't get a sense that Junior really wanted to go through that. But I think he saw the writing on the wall, and I think they saw it from a business of, hey, we're losing too much money right now. We might as well. We haven't been good. We just had our Pobo retire. We're getting fresh ideas in here. We might as well let Heim start from scratch while we also get our books evened up. I think this was always coming for the Cardinals. And the thing I don't understand is why not just say it if that was the case? Because if you're not going to say it now, well, based on the way they talked, it doesn't seem like they have a great sense for what the revenues are going to eventually end up with this TV situation. So whenever you are good again, if it is truly hey, we are spending what our revenues are, and that's probably going to be down because of lack of ticket sales and the TV deal, Okay, well, when you're good, fans are going to expect you to spend. And then at some point, if you're not spending, they're going to have questions. And then you have to come out and say, well we're not spending because we got to keep the books even right now. And that's a bad look.
Can I give my tinfoil on this, Alex?
Sure.
I think we're watching a true transition with the Cardinals, and it's been in progress for a few years now. I think it's from ownership on down. I think this is maybe starting to see what the Cardinals are going to be in the build with a third era. I thought Jeff Jones asked a good question and a necessary question over the weekend to Bill DeWitt Jr., which was, hey, what's the plan? What is the plan for whenever the transition takes place from Bill DeWitt Jr. to whomever, whether that means selling the organization to a different person, a different entity, or keeping the team within the family and, giving it to Bill DeWitt III, having him take over the day-to-day operations. And it sounds like that's the plan, is for Bill DeWitt III to take over. And he said, and, a fourth generation may soon be after that. If that's the case and Bill DeWitt III is more in charge, maybe this is the way that he wants to operate. It's ultimately up to the owner. Everything is in their image. It's their team. And when you bring in Chaim Bloom, I think you have a pretty good idea of the direction that you're going in. So this stuff was all in motion, 2 years ago when Chaim Bloom was first brought into the organization to oversee it. They didn't do that on accident. We knew then Chaim Bloom's probably the next guy that's going to oversee the baseball operations side of things. So if that was the case 2 years ago, yeah, it was probably always heading in this direction in one way or another. Now, was that necessary? I don't know that we'll ever get an honest answer on that. How much did the financial side of things play into this versus just this being their choice on how they would rather operate as a business? I don't know. But if I had a tinfoil on this, I think this was always coming, and it was a matter of how much pressure is there to get here based upon the baseball operation side of things to see how quickly we got to this end point. Maybe they wouldn't have traded Wilson Contreras. Maybe they wouldn't have traded Sonny Gray, but they just would have let those contracts expire and then not replace them on the books in a different world. But in this scenario, because of the baseball side of things, they decided to go about it.
Well, and down that path, if you're planning on Chaim Bloom taking over and if you're planning on going younger and the whole let's get as many young assets as possible and kind of put the money in a better position, I think it was always going to happen with Contreras and Sonny Gray to get traded because those pieces could bring you back better assets. And the question is, should that have happened sooner rather than delay it for a couple of years? Now, you're still trying to compete. Who knows teams that would have been in on those? But I think it's a really good tinfoil theory. And I'll just say this. Adding on to the tinfoil, just Bill DeWitt III doesn't seem like the type of guy that's willing to spend a whole lot of money for a team to try and compete and go out there and sign big free agents. I think Cardinals fans are in for a rude awakening if that's the direction they continue, because this is never going to be a team like they told us last offseason or once they moved on from John Mozeliak to where once we get the right infrastructure in place, we'll be willing to start spending towards the top. I don't know if that's ever going to happen. I think Bill DeWitt sees this as a business, and I think Bill DeWitt will operate this to where Tampa Bay does, to where it's nope, we're not going to pay these big stars. We're going to go out there and ship them out and bring newer, younger guys in.
It's kind of how I feel about this as well. And they were asked over the weekend what the plan is for whenever they do feel like they're competitive again. And
they say they're going to spend?
They said the same thing as they always have, which is, we'll invest whenever we're good again. But they didn't commit to anything, or I guess do they need to? But it just feels very...
Cloak and dagger? I think it's got a little bit of that to it.
I just don't know. I don't know what the future of the Cardinals looks like for the first time in my lifetime. I don't know. I don't know if they're going to spend as a top 12 spender again. I don't know if or when Busch Stadium looks the way that it did in 2022 again. I don't know when they are going to acquire a Hall of Famer the way that they used to. That was their identity for 20 years, was they were the team that if somebody becomes disgruntled with their current situation, you send them to St. Louis, and then they'll re-sign them. And future Hall of Famers, it goes all the way back to Jim Edmonds, Mark McGwire, that era, and then it goes all the way through Nolan Arenado, and then it just ends.
And I don't think those future Hall of Famers are going to have the same sentiment about the Cardinals like Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt did.
Sure.
To where they say, I only want to go to St. Louis because of their winning history.
This stuff changes quickly. Mm-hmm. In any pro sport, it changes so fast where you can go from that. There are very few teams that keep that allure. The Los Angeles Lakers, there's something about them that NBA players will always want to play for that brand. The New York Yankees, people just want to play for that team. The Dallas Cowboys, there are a few of them that no matter what, the brand and I think the city carry such an allure that professional athletes still want to go there. The Miami Heat have a little bit of this with Pat Riley in charge. I don't know if that same thing does or will exist for the Cardinals 3, 5, 7, 10 years down the road. I hope so. For us personally and professionally, it's way better if it does. I just don't know. And that uncertainty that's starting to settle in this offseason and really has been settling in for a few years now, it makes me uneasy on what the future of the Cardinals is ultimately going to look like. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. The Junk Drawer is next. All right, T-Bone, what do you have for us today in the junk drawer?
So, guys, I saw this on Twitter the other day, and I remembered, BK's talked a big game about potentially getting a tattoo, and he's been debating.
A sleeve.
Sleeve, yeah. I don't think this design's going to work for a sleeve, but I remembered, and I thought, wonder if BK would have interest in this. So there's a Chicago Bears fan who has gone viral for having 157 tattoos of players and coaches' signatures that are all across his entire body.
That's so dumb.
No.
That's so dumb.
Out on that?
That's so dumb.
No.
You don't want like a Philip Broberg signature across your chest?
No, because guess what? When Philip Broberg's not a part of the team anymore.
Oh, my God. This is terrible, man.
Let me see it.
It's literally just signatures.
That looks dumb. I'm sorry, but...
So you're not going to go with that idea?
I'm all for people being fans. That's just ridiculous.
If that's what he wants, God bless him. No, to answer your question, would I ever do this? No, that is...
Why can't you just get like a jersey signed or something, man?
IROC said, oh, God, BK with a sleeve? Yeah, I think it fits my personality.
I think a butterfly would fit your personality.
Oh, come on, man.
Oh, that was unnecessary.
Why? Because I've broken out of my cocoon?
yeah, that's it.
You're soaring high. Look, man, if Jeff Merrick can pull off a sleeve, anybody can pull off a sleeve.
That's what I'm saying.
But Jeff Merrick also doesn't like walk around showing it. He's wearing suits, and then when he does have a T-shirt on, I'm like, oh, Jeff Merrick's got a sleeve.
Yeah, and that could be me.
I don't know if that's the reaction people are going to have to that.
I don't think you're that guy.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you, man. I've always wanted a sleeve, but I'm just also in tune with myself to know I can't pull off a sleeve.
Yeah. I don't think I could pull it off, and I don't think I will ever actually do it, but it is something that I've always wanted.
I still just don't, like, I want a tattoo. I still don't know what tattoo to get. Because that's insane to me. Like, it's got to be something that I'm going to be okay with when I'm 85 years old if I make it that long, which... I've seen people do, like, you know, the footprints of their kids tattooed onto them, which is a cool idea. I've seen the names of their kids on there, but like, still, man, it's weird.
Maybe take one of the girls' drawings and then have it put on you.
You haven't seen some of my girls' drawings.
It'd be memorable.
It'd be memorable. It'd be literally some just squiggly lines.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, mine's always been right here on the bicep. I've always wanted, but I don't know what to get, so I just won't get one.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. In 15 minutes, we'll get into Bet It or Forget It. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for Bet It or Forget It. Grady says, BK, there are probably some things that you could actually pull off, but a sleeve is not one of them.
I'd like to know what are some things he could pull off.
Not many. I'm a T-shirt and jeans guy. Maybe khakis.
Maybe khakis.
I can't sit here and act like I could pull anything off. I'm in the same spot as you.
He said tramp stamp would be more of a fit for BK.
I've tried the cowboy boots. I've tried the cowboy hat. Can't pull those off either.
It's hard not to look good in a cowboy hat.
Another text said, go for it. I've got 2 sleeves, a back piece, a whole chest piece. The legs are tatted up. Once you get one, you'll get a ton. My legs, I can't bring more attention to my chicken legs. That would be a bad idea.
Same.
That is one thing I know would be a really, really horrible idea.
I only exercise legs at the gym when nobody else is around.
I try to exercise legs. It just doesn't really
I don't want people to be looking at it.
All right, coming up next, is there a lesson to be learned from the Jets and the Blues last year compared to what we have seen from both of them so far this season? We'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN. Did you guys see the weather for this weekend?
I try to ignore it as much as possible these days.
My God,
Brisk and beautiful 10 degrees.
I heard it's going to be like in the 40s the next few days, though.
Cool.
Hell yeah. I'm going to bust out that barbecue pit.
My wife looked at the weather app the other day, and it said 15 inches of snow in St. Louis.
What?
Whoa.
That's changed. Now the updated forecasts say like a couple inches potentially.
I'm sorry, but how do you go from 15 to a couple?
So the band of snow was over St. Louis. It was a little further north, and now they're starting to see it drop further. So it's like closer to the south.
Oh, good
My
for
sister
me.
lives down in Atlanta, and they're expecting significant ice and snow down there. This is the kind of thing because, dude, these towns in the south, they are not prepared for this kind of snow. They don't have it in the budget to have the snow removal services that we do here in St. Louis. And certainly the way that they do like in Chicago or Detroit or somewhere that's a little further north.
It's all right. St. Louis still won't be prepared.
It's legitimately going to shut markets down for like days on end potentially
Good.
this weekend. It's
Good,
going to be
good.
incredibly cold, ice, snow. So be careful out there. And if you've got anybody that lives a little further south, check in on them. Just make sure they're ready for whatever is coming their way.
Every morning when I wake up and my daughter and I walk out of the car to go to school, she's like, Daddy, I am so ready for summer. I said, me too, baby girl. Yeah. But we'll be complaining about that in about mid-July.
Alex, in the postseason last year, Blues versus Jets was one of the best series that we saw. The entire playoff.
Well, I'd say it was the best.
And now you look at these teams. They're getting ready to take each other on tonight. Blues versus Jets tonight starting at 7 o'clock. Pregame with Alex starts at 6.
You don't think it's going to have the same environment?
It's all right
Same
here
atmosphere?
on 101 ESPN. Alex will have your pregame coverage.
It's a delayed puck drop again because, why not with those ceremonies? So stick with me. I've got you a little bit longer tonight.
The Jets, as of today, would have the second overall selection in the draft. The Blues would be picking third. What happened? How did we arrive in this place, Alex? And is there a lesson to be learned?
I don't know what the lesson would be because I don't know what happened with Winnipeg. Like, their downfall happened when Connor Hellebuck went down with injury. They were still floating around third place in the Central Division top wild card spot before Hellebuck's injury. And then when he went down, they had no backup plan. They're the comp you always make in football to where when we lose Peyton Manning, we're bleeped. When we lose Connor Hellebuck, we're bleeped. That's what Winnipeg went through. But then when he came back, all of their struggles continued. They couldn't make the saves when they needed them to. And right now, their problem is they can't score goals. I think they're right there with the Blues in terms of goals scored per game since Connor Hellebuck has returned this season. So what happened to them? I guess if you wanted, you could say they lost Nikolai Ehlers. That's a big piece of their team. You don't have any secondary scoring, so what do teams do? They find a way to shut down the number one line, and then you can have success against them. But, man, it feels like their problems are deeper than just the top line being their only line that can create offense. Defensively, they haven't been as good. Connor Hellebuck is not what he was last season. Maybe that's because of the injuries still, but I don't know what the lesson is for the Winnipeg Jets. And, I mean, the lesson from watching these two teams where they're at right now, it goes quick. It goes real quick. But I look at Winnipeg and say I could see them pulling themselves out of this. I look at the Blues and I say, I don't see how that's going to happen.
Is there something to the idea of building around a goaltender and having that as your main identity? Because I think both of these teams have that. I think Jordan Binnington for a number of years has been the primary identity for the St. Louis Blues. Now they have other things, especially when they went on that run to the Cup. It was depth of scoring. It was the big defenseman, hard to play against, all of these different things. Great defensively overall. But since then, a lot of it has been tied to, if we get into the playoffs, our goalie will stand on his head and he'll give us a chance to go far in the postseason. And if you look at the Winnipeg Jets, they do have a couple of star players. You've got Scheifele, you got Kyle Connor, you had Ehlers last year, who was a really good player for them. Gabe Vilardi this season is having another good year for them. So they've got good players, don't get me wrong, but their identity is the guy that won the MVP a year ago. And I do wonder if we're seeing some of the pitfalls of building that way, where you don't have anything else necessarily that you can hang your hat on night to night. Like this year, it's simply been a solid season from Winnipeg in net. Like they have not had the same 925 save percentage as they did last year. They're at like a 905 save percentage. And for the Blues, it's kind of similar. Is that something? I'm just theorizing here. I don't know.
I think you're onto it. I mean, look, you asked me in the office before, are there other teams that built around goaltending? And the answer is no. Teams don't build around goaltending. My only rebuttal to the Blues building around Binnington, I don't think they built around Binnington. I think their identity was always stingy defense. And goaltending thrived with that defense because they had Brian Elliott, they had Carter Hutton, they had Jake Allen, and then, of course, Jordan Binnington steps in. Now, you need the goalie to make saves, and Binnington has made some unbelievable saves and put them in a position to succeed, but they have always been just a stingy defensive team, and that identity has been lost this season. Frankly, it's been lost for the last 4 seasons. The Winnipeg Jets, I guess I could argue the same thing, but to your point, every time we argue about Binnington, man, that's the same roster. That's the same roster that was the President's Trophy team last year for Winnipeg. Same defense, same guys that are out on the ice, same coach, same goaltender. So it's always dangerous when you build around a goaltender and expect him to win you 40-plus games and start 65-plus games, because that's not going to happen. The era of Grant Fuhr is not here anymore. Vasilevsky and Connor Hellebuck are it. But to what Doug Armstrong had said earlier this season, I think when you look at the Winnipeg Jets, they suffer from the same thing that St. Louis does. When you lose your fallback, when things aren't going well, you have nothing. And the Blues lost their goaltender who was playing well early on. They weren't stingy defensively, and you had nothing to fall back on.
It's interesting because you look at the Jets' issues this year, and it's almost the opposite of the Blues' issues. Mm-hmm. Like, the Jets have the top-line talent. They're awesome. Mark Scheifele has 23 goals and 58 points in 48 games this year. Mm-hmm. He's been everything they could have asked for and then some. Kyle Connor, 23 goals, 56 points in 48 games. Again, everything you could have possibly asked for. Hell, even Gabe Vilardi. He's staying healthy this time around. He's a point-per-game player, and he's on pace for almost 40 goals again. So their top line has been great. It's everything else that's falling apart.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, for the Blues, like, some of their depth of scoring, listen, it's not great this year, don't get me wrong, but I would say it's fine if you had that kind of top-line production, but they don't have that top-line production. The Blues' top scorers, goal-scoring-wise this year, are Jake Neighbors, who has missed, almost 15 games, Robert Thomas, who is not known as a scorer, and Justin Falk, who's a defenseman. That's not what you want if you're the Blues. Hell, Braden Shin is 4th right now in goals scored this season, and we all view this as a pretty underwhelming year for Braden Shin.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
I now that I've pulled these numbers up from Sports Logic on Winnipeg Jets, their problem has been defensively. Like, listen to these numbers. The Blues, as we all know, 28th in terms of goals against this season. The expected goals against aren't as bad because their goaltending has struggled. The Winnipeg Jets are 21st in goals against and 21st in expected. They're 3rd worst in the NHL in terms of slot passes given up. They're 21st in the NHL in terms of O-zone possession. They're the worst team in the NHL in terms of giving up rebound chances. They're the 5th worst team in the NHL in terms of high danger chances. So at least off of that, that's the advanced analytics for you. They're bad defensively. And what happens when you build around a goaltender winning you hockey games? If you have a leaky spot defensively, your goaltending's not going to come up big for you, even for guys that can make miraculous saves like Connor Hellebuck. And, again, we've had these conversations for the Blues within the last, 5 years? It always goes back to the probably first thing that started this with moving on from Alex Pietrangelo. They transitioned into a different mindset of defensemen where let's get young and mobile defensemen that can generate offense, like the Cale Makars and the Adam Foxes. It bit you in the butt. I almost said, I guess I could have said ass. It doesn't really matter. Okay. It bit you, though. You went young. You lost that mindset of, hey, our DNA is going to be stingy defensively, big guys in front of our goaltender, and don't give you time and space. And they don't have it. And they haven't had it. They're trying to get back to it. Now you've got Broberg, you've got Parayko, you've got Jiricek coming up, but it's still been a massive problem, and I'd argue that's the same thing with the Winnipeg Jets.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Blues back in action tonight against the Winnipeg Jets, the rematch of last year's first-round series. A hell of a series between these two teams. Instead, this year, they're playing for something even more meaningful, which is, the number 1 overall selection. Coming up in about 15 minutes, the Big Ten has officially overtaken the SEC as the best conference in the land. And this national championship game was just the latest example of that. We'll get into that in about 15 minutes. Better to forget it next year on 101 ESPN. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for Bet It or Forget It. You guys give us a scenario. We will tell you if we are betting it or forgetting it here on 101 ESPN. Let's start out with this. Big basketball tonight locally as Missouri.
Texas Tech, right?
No, not Texas Tech. Missouri takes on Georgia. Missouri, a slight underdog at home against the Bulldogs. Bet it or forget it. Mizzou, Illinois, and SLU all make it to the NCAA tournament this year.
I'll bet it. Mizzou's the only one I'm hesitant on, and I think we've established that the SEC isn't that dominant, so I think Mizzou's going to be that bubble team, but I think it's clear-cut SLU and Illinois are in, so I'll say bet it.
I'm going to forget it. I still can't get in on this Mizzou team. I've seen them in person. They don't look like a tournament team. Like, I watched them in person. I've seen what tournament teams look like.
Neither does most of the SEC, though.
That's the thing. Like, their conference is so weak. Like, they can get in. I'm kind of with Alex. They're a fringe team. If they get in, it's either last four in or they're like a 10 seed or a 9 seed, something like that. I don't think they're going to consistently, they'll pick up the big wins they need. Like, tonight would be a huge win to the resume if they can beat Georgia. I don't think they're going to keep doing that, though. And they can't seem to win on the road. So I'm going to say forget it. I think Mizzou will miss the NCAA tournament.
It'd be Kentucky. They had a really good win over Florida as well. Those are nice resume builders. This would be pretty similar to the Auburn win. They're kind of similar in terms of their overall resume, Georgia compared to Auburn. Georgia, this is the kind of game in previous years that I would have said, oh, this is exactly the matchup that Missouri can take advantage of. They want to run up and down the court. They're all about offense. They don't get a ton of stops. Like, this is the kind of team, kind of similar to Alabama last year, where Alabama almost played into Missouri's hands when they came to Mizzou Arena a year ago. Now, they were a much better version of this team than Georgia is, but similar in terms of style that Missouri can do well against. Meanwhile, a team like Drake that slows the ball down, wants to play in the half court, that was a problem for Dennis Gates in Missouri. This year's almost the opposite. This team does play a little more methodically. They can slow it down, win in the half court. So I'll be very curious to see how Missouri matches up against this style of team, because it's a different kind of roster. So I'll say bet it. I do think that Missouri ultimately gets in. I think they're like right on that bubble this year, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon.
They're the 16 seed, and they're going to upset the 1 seed in round one.
No.
Hell yeah.
They'll be like an 11 seed-ish, somewhere around there. Kind of like last four in type of a situation. Alex, what do you have for us today?
Bet it or forget it, guys. JR talked about this a little bit ago. Steve Ott is never back with the St. Louis Blues after this season.
Bet it.
I would bet it as well. I don't know if this is, I don't know if demotion would be the right word, but this certainly feels like, hey, go get we'll help you out. Go be a head coach of the AHL. Don't expect to be back as an assistant with us. And I don't think he would be taking over as head coach with Monty here anytime soon.
No, yeah. And I don't look at this as a demotion. I think a lot of people do. This is how you become a head coach, with the exception of a couple of guys in the NHL who played the game. Like Rod Brindamore played, retired, was an assistant for Carolina, then took over as a head coach. Marty St. Louis retired, never had coaching experience, took over as head coach. Those are few and far between, but Brindamore and Marty St. Louis are Hall of Famers, and Steve Ott is not that. This is how you get a head coaching job. I think this is either he is back with the Thunderbirds next year as a head coach, or he's an NHL head coach elsewhere.
T-Bone?
Guys, better forget it. Assuming Fernando Mendoza goes #1 overall to the Raiders.
Who else
He
would?
will get the Raiders in the playoffs within 2 years.
I'll say forget it. It's just such a high bar to clear. In that conference, in that division, it's really tough. So I'll say forget it. Within 2 years, I'm glad you added that in.
Yeah, I'll forget it as well. You're going to have to wait for the Chargers or the Chiefs to take a direction change, and I don't think that's happening anytime soon. The Chargers maybe, but I think with the Broncos being there, you're always going to be third or fourth in that division.
And for a wild card spot, you're battling with New England, Buffalo, Baltimore, Cincinnati, Jacksonville, Houston, Denver, LA, Kansas City. That's 9 teams I just mentioned in the conference that are all going to be expecting over the next couple of years to not only make it to the postseason, but to potentially have an opportunity to go on some kind of a run.
And I'd throw Indy in there as well.
Sure. And you're at best 10th.
Yeah.
Could they do it? Sure. We've seen crazier things happen. I wouldn't have expected 2 years ago New England to be in this spot. I don't know who the coach is going to be of the Las Vegas Raiders. Maybe they get that hire right as well. But I would bet against it.
See, the funny thing is I'm forgetting it, but it's not so much with what the conference is or the division is. It is more so that the Raiders have yet to prove they are a competent organization. Because I think if they to your point on the head coach, we'll see about this GM. We'll see how much Brady really knows what he's doing as being a guy that's basically running the team, it sounds like. If they had the competent people in place, they could easily turn this around and be a playoff team within 2 years. Because you've got young players, you've got the rookie quarterback contract, which we've talked about, which is a huge deal. They could potentially move Max Crosby, get a haul for him as well. And I don't think the AFC is as deep as what the NFC is. And I think there's a chance that we look back on this, and I think there's a chance we look back and say, well, boy, that wasn't just a one-off for the Chiefs and the Ravens and the Bills. No, they are in worse spots than we think, even with their franchise quarterbacks. And it opens things up a little bit more for the rest of the AFC.
All right, let's get a little bit of news here before we get to your text, 314-399-9646. That is the Air Comfort Service text line. Pete Thamel tweeting out key pieces from Duke's lawsuit, which has been filed against quarterback Darian Mensah. They have requested a temporary restraining order to keep him from entering the portal, according to Darren Heitner, who has been one of the foremost lawyers representing a lot of the players against these kinds of legal issues. He said the request for a temporary restraining order for him to enter the portal was denied. The rest will get decided at a later date. Pete Thamel adding that the idea is he's had some kind of an issue with his NIL. He shouldn't have been able to license his NIL to another school after signing his contract with Duke. So another one of these lawsuits, the one that happened against DeMond Williams at Washington, ultimately was resolved by Williams going back to Washington. If this one goes through, and as of today, Darian Mensah is expected to be the next quarterback at Miami. If this lawsuit actually goes through and they go to court over this, it could be a precedent-setting case for what takes place and how they can add some kind of guardrails to this in future years. I don't know if it's going to matter for Duke, because it sure sounds like Darian Mensah is going to be the next quarterback at Miami no matter what, but it could set some kind of a precedent in place for future situations similar where a guy has already signed his NIL deal and then tries to go elsewhere. All right, 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line for Bet It or Forget It. From Doug over on the text line.
Doug?
Doug's stepson. Bet it or forget it. If the Blues... Or bet it or forget it, the Blues will make Thomas and Kyrou available at the trade deadline.
Bet it. They're already available. That's what the reports are. Everyone's available on this team. The question is, are they going to pay the price? They're not going to get moved before the deadline, in my opinion.
Agreed.
That'll be an offseason move.
All fronts with you.
Yeah. I think any conversations they're having now are setting up for the offseason.
Yeah, it'll be a draft night move if that trade goes down.
From Merp the Barbarian, bet it or forget it, the Blues will score multiple power play goals tonight.
Forget it.
I'm going to bet it because this is the world we live in. Everyone has been complaining about Steve Ott for the last 4 years, not understanding that the talent has just not been good. And tonight they're going to score 2 because Monty's taking it over.
I'm siding with Alex. That feels right.
So we're going to be 2 tonight.
Do we know, by the way, is Monty the one that's taking over the power play?
Yeah, he said for now it's going to be him, and then post-Olympics they'll probably divvy it up. My assumption would be post-Olympics, Claude Julien will take over the rest of the way. Yeah, but I mean, it's a lot of. I mean, this is a lot for that coaching staff to take on now that Steve Ott's gone. I mean, Steve Ott not only ran the power play, he worked on the faceoffs, he worked with the centerman, he was the offensive guy, and so now they're taking on that load. I'm going to be fascinated, not so much this season, but who he hires next year. I think I've said this before. He has never hired his own coaching staff. His time in the NHL, it's always been the coaching staff that he was with, and it's because his team was successful and he didn't make it through that next season. So it's him now. My guess is Julien probably after the Olympic break, and then next year will be whoever they decide to bring in.
Play Palooza Party says, bet it or forget it, Mason Wynn will sign a long-term contract extension this offseason.
I'm forgetting it. I don't think they're signing anybody to a long-term contract extension.
Yeah, I would forget it as well.
They just traded away all of these.
Yeah, from what we talked about earlier today, did the Cardinals, were they ultimately going to end up in this spot? If you don't know what your money's going to be coming in the near future, how can you lock up a guy? And I get it, he wouldn't be expensive, but right now they don't have a bunch of money committed for future years. So yeah, I doubt it. I would forget this.
I'll forget this as well. I think that he is somebody that they would like to build around. I do not think that he gets that long-term contract right now. There's really no incentive to do so. You might as well wait this thing out, see how he plays over the next year or maybe even 2, and then you can find out what the market's going to be for a player like Mason Wynn. I don't think there's any real rush to get some kind of a deal done. 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. You can check us out on YouTube as always at youtube.com/101ESPN STL. It's 1:31. Your time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. Coming up next, the Big Ten won another national championship last night. That's 3 straight for them. The SEC has not been to any of the last 3 national title games. What does it say about the current status for both the Big Ten and the SEC? We'll answer that next here on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here, the Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Blues back in action tonight as they visit the Winnipeg Jets. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 6 o'clock with Alex Ferrario. Puck drop at 7 o'clock with Chris Carber and Joey Vitale. The Sports Center update is brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, an Icon Heating and Air Conditioning dealer.
All right. T-Bone gets to gloat because his conference is the best in the land.
Yeah, not his team. Unfortunately, your team's not good in that conference.
There's no arguing against it at this point. It's been 3 consecutive seasons in which the Big Ten has won the national championship. It's been 3 consecutive seasons in which the SEC has not even been represented in the national championship. And if I'm going to give the SEC the credit that I believe it deserved for about 15 years of being the most dominant conference in America because they had the best teams in America, I have to do the same thing now for the Big Ten. It is currently, until proven otherwise, the best conference in America. Now, I believe that the depth of the SEC is better. I think if you look at teams like 6 through 11 in the SEC, I think it is tougher week to week to get through the gauntlet of playing the SEC schedule than it is to play the Big Ten schedule. But we don't judge conferences based upon that. We've never judged conferences based upon that. If we did, then a few years ago, the Pac-12 would have been the best conference in America.
And maybe still be around.
And people never argued that. So we do this based upon who you're at the top. And right now, T-Bone, credit where it's due. Your conference is the best. They've got the belt.
Yeah, and what's interesting about it is, like, when I think of the SEC's dominance, it was really like one team would go on an extended run, right? Like, you had Alabama with Nick Saban would go on a run, and then when Saban kind of started to teeter off, it was, okay, Kirby Smart then took the reins at Georgia, and Georgia went on its little run. Now, the Big Ten, it's done it with 3 different teams now. It was Michigan first under Harbaugh. Now, they may have cheated or, might have happened. Ohio State had their run last year to the college football playoff, and now it's Indiana's turn that's appeared under Kurt Cignetti. And now I think it's probably going to be between Indiana and Ohio State. That will be the teams that will continue to do this for the Big Ten. But there's no doubt it's got the much better elite talent when it comes to the teams that are up at the top. Because, like, when we looked at the SEC, all those teams were very good. To your point, they all had a flaw. And it's what ended up knocking them out of the playoffs. Like, for Ole Miss, it was their defense. Their defense isn't good enough. Miami proved it wasn't, and they knocked them out of the playoff. Indiana was the most complete team. I thought Ohio State was a very complete team. That's why it was shocking when they lost in the playoff. But the Big Ten has proven now that it is the better conference over the SEC and has the more elite talent to go win what matters, the college football playoff.
And for most of these teams, it's the quarterback position. Mm-hmm. I mean, you go back and you look at where a lot of the SEC teams fell short this year. Ty Simpson was amazing the first half of the year. I think he was hurt the second half of the year. He was not the same quarterback. They also didn't have a very good offensive line in front of them, especially for Alabama standards. But he didn't live up to expectations down the stretch. When the moments mattered the most, Marcel Reed wasn't good enough. He wasn't able to do it against that defensive line from Miami. The way that last night you saw Fernando Mendoza in big-time spots, he was not perfect last night by any stretch. But when it mattered the most, that guy made plays. Big-time throws, a big-time run on 4th down to convert and then get into the end zone. Like, that dude did what was necessary. The one team that did have the quarterback was Ole Miss, and it wasn't the expectation for that guy to be the quarterback. But Trinidad Chambliss had them, I mean, right there. They were this close to being able to pull off that upset against Miami. And Miami made a couple more plays. But they were the one team that had the quarterback that was capable of doing it this year.
Do they have 3 of the 4 best head coaches in college football?
Talking about the
Big Ten. Cignetti, obviously.
Cignetti 1.
Where
Dan
would you
Lanning
put
would
Day?
be 2. I personally don't view Ryan Day that way.
I don't know
It's
if he's
maybe
a great
unfair.
Coach, but he's got a great system.
And he knows how
what
to
I mean by
recruit.
that is, like, he took over an unbelievable scenario that Urban Meyer left him. Like, it doesn't get better than that. And as we saw, DeBoer hadn't been able to replicate what Nick Saban had.
The only reason I ask that is because I would say Kirby Smart is the best in the SEC. And I
agree.
would probably put 2 ahead of Kirby Smart.
I think Cignetti for sure. It's hard for me to put Dan Lanning above him when Dan Lanning hasn't had the same amount of success at a really good program that recruits at an exceptionally high level as Kirby Smart has.
And that's fair. I mean,
so I'll defer to Kirby in the success that he had over an extended stretch of time.
Still, if you're going
most recently, Dan Lanning has had the better teams.
And if you're going top 5, and I guess you probably have to put Lane Kiffin's name up there because of the success, even though how much of a disaster he is. I still think you're having 3 of the Big Ten coaches in the top 5.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's the most head coaches.
I don't think Ryan Day would be up there for me. And maybe that's unfair.
Yeah, I think I'd have to put him up there just because of...
If I'm going off the success of Kirby, I mean, Day won a national championship last year. He gets up there.
And they always seem to be one of the best teams. And
don't win that by
again,
accident.
He has the right recipe in terms of recruiting and bringing in the right kids through the transfer portal. And then on top of that, turning it into results on the field.
I think he's a good coach. I do just have some questions on how many coaches could have had the success that he did given the talent that's there. Now, he gets credit for accumulating that talent. Ohio State also just kind of recruits for itself.
I thought Bama would do that too. Kalen DeBoer hadn't been able to replicate it.
Ohio State's different than Bama. In my opinion, I would put Ohio State as a bigger brand than even Alabama.
No, I mean, he took it over like right from Nick Saban too.
But we had already seen them starting to go on the downward trajectory under Saban at the very end than what they had been previously. If you want to put Ryan Day up there, that's totally cool. I personally wouldn't. I would have some other coaches ahead of him. Like if I was starting a program and you told me you get to have this guy in a neutral situation, would you rather have Ryan Day or Kirby Smart? For me, I'm taking Kirby Smart.
Oh, yeah, I'm with you there.
Ryan Day or, and this one will be maybe a little more controversial, but like Mike Elko, the head coach at Texas A&M, I'll take Elko. I think he would be the guy that I would rather have starting my program from scratch than Ryan Day. I know that some would probably disagree with that, and I totally understand it, but that's my personal preference on that matter. Other than that, though, yeah, I mean, he's probably top like 7 to 10 in college football, and that's being conservative.
That's the big part for me, though. I mean, the amount of talent you have at the head coach position on the Big Ten also is part of the reason why you see these teams at the top right now and the successful that they've been having.
Somebody said Marcus Freeman. I would take Marcus Freeman over...
he's not an SEC, though.
Over Ryan Day as well.
He's technically a Big Ten. He just won't join the Big Ten.
I would take Ryan Day over Marcus Freeman.
Really? I think I would take Marcus Freeman.
Freeman's done it like once, and then the other previous years were very underwhelming under him. Let's not forget he also lost Northern Illinois. I know they overcame that, but that's a rough look.
It's so hard to do this because the situations are quite different. You know, Ohio State is just a different level of program than most of these other places that we're talking about. Yeah. It's one of the 3 most prominent jobs in America, probably, I would say. So I have a tough time weighing how much of this is Ryan Day and how much of this is just Ohio State kind of runs itself. It's almost hard to fail there. And now he won the national championship, and he deserves credit for that. But other than that, I think he's just done a good job there, and maybe not a pinnacle.
Where would is it Kyle Whittingham who just took over Michigan? Where's he falling?
He's a really good coach.
Because I think he's in the. I mean, you mentioned the 3 best coaches. I mean, he belongs in this category. I know he's
top
his
10-ish.
first year in the Big Ten. He's up there for me, too, ahead of some of the SEC guys as well.
Yeah, if you were thinking about
smart, but
Big Ten this year, best coaches in the conference, I would say 1, Cignetti, no doubt about it. 2, Dan Lanning for me. 3 is a battle between Ryan Day and Whittingham. I'd say I'd probably lean Ryan Day there, but Whittingham would be right.
And then probably Lincoln Riley right after. And then Brett Bielema?
No.
Jed Fish, maybe.
I think Jed Fish would probably be.
Eli Drinkwitz is ahead of Bielema.
I'm just talking Big Ten. It's interesting we did not mention Matt Rule.
There's
a reason for that. Come on now, man.
Can you imagine being a Nebraska fan today? I mean, basketball's going great. Don't get me wrong.
True.
But on the football side of things, who's playing quarterback for them? Truly, who's doing? I have no idea.
Maybe he'll go after Mendoza's brother.
Their starting quarterback decided I'd rather be the backup at Oregon next year.
Yeah, that's a tough look.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one stings a little bit there.
If you were ranking the coaches in the SEC right now, we did the same thing in the SEC as you did in the Big Ten. 1, Kirby. 2, would you go Lane,
Probably,
Alex?
I think he'd either be Lane or Elko.
I really like Elko. I think he's a stud.
It's so hard to do Lane because of all of the off-field stuff. But like in terms of coaching, he has success.
He's as good of an offensive mind as you'll find.
It has to be up there in the top 3. So whether you want Elko or Kiffin, I think it's pretty close together.
I think that's fair. I'd probably go Elko 2, Kiffin 3. And
Sark
then
4.
I think Sark probably is 4. I've got my issues with him, but he's a good coach, even if
This might be a bit of
limited.
a hot take. My 5th, and I know it's small sample size, might be Clark Lee at Vanderbilt. I mean, to
I
make
get it.
Vanderbilt that good of a program,
Yeah.
like, come on.
I hear ya.
I know they haven't done what Indiana did. They were the Indiana of the SEC.
Give me Kalen DeBoer, guy that took Washington to the brink of the national championship game.
I've not been impressed with him at Alabama. That's why I can't put
He's
him
a
there.
really good coach.
I bet you Bama fans will disagree.
I'm sure they would, because they're comparing it to the best coach of our generation.
Bama literally is going to hate every single coach that isn't Nick Saban.
I think, once again, this gets back to our conversation previously. The depth of the SEC is much better, coaching-wise, roster-wise, everything. It is better than the depth of the Big Ten, but the top of the Big Ten is better. And that's, generally speaking, how we approach these conversations. So credit to the Big Ten. They've done what is necessary. The talent has dispersed in a way where they now have top-tier talent, top-tier teams, top-tier coaching.
You listen to me now. 2026, the rise of the ACC.
You listen to me
You
now.
listen to me now. 2026. Hear this, rise of the ACC.
I'm not willing to go that far.
Clemson's going to make their comeback.
The way too early national title odds are out, by the way, as of today. The co-favorites are Ohio State and Notre Dame, both at plus 650. Indiana getting the respect that they deserve at 7-1. After them, it's Texas at plus 750. That'd be my personal lean as of today. And then Oregon at plus 950. And then a bunch of SEC teams. Georgia, LSU, Texas A&M, all in the 11 to 15 to 1 range. Miami coming in at 19 to 1. Bama, Oklahoma, Auburn, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Florida, all kind of in that next range among SEC teams. If you're curious about the local schools, Missouri and Illinois, a little longer odds. Missouri is at plus 100 to 1 odds. Plus 1,000. And Illinois, I got to search a little further.
Being slumped on there.
500 to 1.
Oh, yeah, that's
The same odds as Houston, Cal, and slightly worse odds than Kentucky, K-State, or Pittsburgh.
worse than K-State and Pitt? Oh, that is
And
ridiculous.
Florida State and Arizona and Louisville
I guess they're not,
and Vandy.
I guess they're not excited about your portal returns this year.
Apparently not.
Your quarterback must not be that
What has Mike Norvell
titillating.
done to get credit for getting higher odds than us?
Your quarterback
That's
must
ridiculous.
not be making us all excited.
The rewind is next. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. If you guys missed anything from today's show, be sure to check it out on the podcast page. 101ESPN.com and the free 101 ESPN app is where you go to find it. It's all sponsored by
Schaefer Door Company.
101 ESPN app, super easy to use. It's free to download, and it's sponsored by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. I'd give today a solid 8.7 overall for the show.
I was thinking 8.8, so
Okay.
we're right in the same line of thinking.
Good show today.
9.2.
9.2.
Had fun. Nobody yelled at each other. It's an overall really great show.
Probably
I
would have
would
been a
say.
10 if BK didn't have tone towards the Bills.
Oh, no, I thought that was a good tone. That was a solid tone.
Well,
Look, we're
they
the tone.
said that
Don't defend it.
We're the tone judges around here, okay? We know when there's tone. That was valid tone. Look it up.
text line said that Dalton Kincaid was a good pick, and there's just no justification for that.
Not after you saw what they took after, which I don't know if you saw it or not. Jalen Reed was taken 50th overall.
I did. I didn't.
I forgot he didn't listen to the
Missed it.
We talked a little bit about the Bills
8.4
situation on the show today. We gave a lot of thoughts on the college football playoff, the national championship game, which took place last night. It was an all-timer, just an absolutely fantastic game. Mendoza coming up big on the fourth down. Signetti ultimately coming away with a national championship at Indiana. What this means for the sport at large. Also gave some thoughts about the Dodgers and how they've, once again, tried to break baseball. So you can find all of that over on the podcast page today. Blues back in action this evening. Alex will have pregame coverage for that one starting tonight at 6 o'clock. Blues versus the Jets, 2 and 3 in the overall NHL draft standings today.
Some are looking at it as a rematch of the playoffs last year. Others are looking at it as the battle for the second overall pick.
And if the
You
Blues lose tonight, the Winnipeg Jets would be right there with them, basically tied for that second overall selection.
I think points percentage, they'd go ahead of them because they'd have a game in hand.
I think the Blues would still technically have a lower points percentage because they would have played 50, the Jets would have played 49, and the Jets would have the same number of points. So the tiebreaker would still go to Winnipeg, but it'd be right there. I mean, you're basically even with the Winnipeg Jets.
That's really what we're here for.
Don't tempt
You
me
need
with
to
a good
lose this
time.
one.
That's really what we're here for. They won. Blackhawks beat them in a shootout last night, so I was hoping that one went to overtime because you wanted more points for everybody, but, to each his own.
Forgot to mention this earlier on the show. T-Bone, big news for Illinois basketball. Boswell going to be out for a little while?
Yeah, it sounds like he's going to be out till about mid-February. He broke his hand in practice. He got either yesterday or today. Not sure what Brad Underwood said, but that is a huge loss for Illinois because he's their veteran guard that's been kind of the lead go-to guy for them. Now puts a lot of pressure on Wagler, who had been playing very well, and on Stojakovic to really carry the load for him at the point guard position.
You can't be breaking your hand at practice.
This weekend, big game for them against Purdue. Mm-hmm. And that one is
The
on
timing
the road
could not have been
as
worse.
Yeah, the Big Ten schedule is about to get really tough for Illinois. I gave you a little bit of crap earlier for them not really playing much in terms of the competition in the Big Ten yet. Purdue this weekend. The following weekend, you've got Nebraska. And then the following weekend, you've got Michigan State. That's all right around the timeline of when he could potentially be coming back. 3 games against top 15 ranked opponents in terms of their KenPom rankings right now over the next few weekends. Some big seeding determining games for Illinois.
We'll find out how deep they really were.
Mizzou tonight will take on Georgia. We'll break that thing down for you guys tomorrow. I do think that they will pull this one off. I think it'll be close. It's a styles make fights. Missouri, this is the kind of style that they used to like to play in under Dennis Gates. I'm not sure that it fits them quite as well this year, but at home, I'll go ahead and give them a slight advantage. Do think it's going to be very close. This is the kind of game that could flip you one way or the other on the bubble. A big one for Mizzou. We'll break that thing down tomorrow. For Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow at 11 a.m. The Fast Lane is next here on 101 ESPN.